Hey, this is Kevin Kelly. Get ready for the latest episode of the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by the dashing Matt Turner. Matt Turner, how was New York?
New York, the city's so nice, they named it twice. Rob Goodwin, I had a phenomenal time, but real quick, I fancy myself a gentleman. Before we get into, I'm not going to go into everything that happened at Comic-Con. Obviously, people want to hear about one person on my meet and greet. Before I get into that, my friend, how was your day? How's everything with you? How's everything with Big Daddy Cool Rob Goodwin today?
I can't complain, brother. I can't complain. As I mentioned on the Patreon episode not long ago, I have my first wrestling class on Saturday, 10 till 12, with, former WWE and current Impact Tag Team Champion, Flash Morgan Webster's brand new school in Stoke-on-Trent. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll, as I said before, I think it's only right that I give it a try, unless I break my neck, in which case it was a stupid idea. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how much actual in-ring work we'll do or whether it'll all just be fitness, but I am looking forward to it. I'm sure I will keep you updated, brother, anyway. Yeah,
I'm super excited to hear about it, and I can't wait to hear about your adventure on this when we record next week. But yes, Rob, let's get into the big nitty-gritty. Now, again, I'm not going to go through all my 4 days at New York Comic-Con. We will be here literally for 5 or 6 hours. So let's talk about my meeting with one Mercedes Moné. Now, I did mention on this podcast the past few weeks that my idea was to pitch having one Mercedes Moné on the podcast. Now, I know I was texting you back and forth. I kind of gave you the cliff notes. So buckle in, folks. I'm going to give you the detail by detail my fantastic experience with one Mercedes Moné. Now, this meet and greet took place on Saturday. I was there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Thursday and Friday, I met up with a whole bunch of friends of mine that I see every year at New York Comic-Con. And they have press passes and pro passes, and they're always interviewing certain people for comic books and movies and TV and whatnot. They do very, very well on their podcast. And they did make mention that, say, hey, you and Rob are absolutely crushing it on, the Stardom Cast podcast. We see that the numbers are growing. You guys are all over the place. So it was nice to get a big, pat in the back and thumbs up from some of my friends who were very successful in their podcast endeavors. I did make mention that my main reason for being at New York Comic-Con this year, other than to hang out with Andy Hedder and all the wackiness that is one Andy Hedder, is to pitch to get Mercedes on the podcast. And everybody was like, it's slam dunk, it's a shoo-in, you're going to do it. Absolutely. You know what you're doing. You're a positive podcast. You guys are doing well. You got this. So my confidence, which is always usually pretty high, Rob, was really, really high going into Saturday morning. Now, I had 2 meets with her, one for the autograph, which was at 11:30, and one for the picture, which was at 3 o'clock. Now, I know since this is my 11th, maybe even 12th, I'd have to count it, my 11th or 12th New York Comic-Con, that when it comes to the picture, they literally just have the celebrity that you're getting the picture just standing in like one spot. They just say, next, you take the picture, and you're gone. It's like 15, 20 seconds. So I know you're really not going to get any type of quality time to really say anything. It's like a thank you or this or that, and then that's it. And I understand it's a business. They're trying to get as many people in as possible. Now, the autograph is always a little bit different because you could always say something or pitch something or ask a quick, funny question while they're signing your merchandise. So I kind of figured, okay, that's where I will try to get one Mercedes Monet on the podcast. Now, Rob Goodwin, like I said, my friend, the autograph started at 11:30. I got there at 10:30. And when I got there, about an hour early, her line was absolutely packed. Now, there was about 85. Now, I like to take a lay of the land, just kind of an idea of, where I'm going to go, what my pitch is going to be, kind of just have an idea of what I can and can't do and whatnot.
Of course.
So I'm taking a look at everybody in line in front of me, behind me, and it's about 85% people in Mercedes lines getting Star Wars stuff signed because she is on the Mandalorian TV show on Disney Plus. 14% getting Sasha Banks stuff signed, and 1% getting Stardom Mercedes Monet thing signed. And that 1%, Rob Goodwin, would be me. So I was like, oh, okay, my thing is going to stand out. Now, I have two things to get autographed. It was the official program for All-Star Grand Queendom that she, along with a lot of the other wrestlers, are on the cover of. And then my one-in-one, the fantastic artwork that my daughter Lily did of Mercedes Monet as Hana Kimura in Hana's gear when she took on Kairi back in Battle in the Valley for the IWGP Women's Championship. So I was like, okay, my stuff is going to stand out. She may or may not remember it, but it's gonna stand out more, than basically kind of what everybody has. Now, again, Rob, like I said, this is my 11th or 12th New York Comic-Con. I know when you go to these autograph booths that there's the person signing, like your main person signing, and they have like one or two other people there, like the handlers. And what they'll do is the one person will scan your tickets to just say, hey, this person has one thing signed or two things signed, or make sure it's okay for them to sign. And then the other person will say, they'll have a Post-it pad, and they'll usually say, do you want an inscription on this other than the autograph? For example, when I met Mark Ruffalo, also the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, when I met him a couple years ago, I had my Avengers Age of Ultron poster signed, and I had him sign it Hulk Smash. So I went in, okay, you're verified for one ticket. What do you want on it? And a Hulk Smash, boom, there it is on my poster. So so as the line's moving, we're about halfway through. And the one thing I finally see Mercedes, and the one thing I pick up right away is how engaging she is with fans. That's one thing, you can talk, say a few things, and you're nice, this, that, and the other thing. I've had certain celebrities, will not mention anybody's name because we are not here to bury anybody, that were on their phone the whole entire time and could not be bothered. Could not be bothered. Okay, that's your prerogative. Mercedes was very eye contact, no phone. If there's any phone, it would be one of somebody that was behind her taking a picture of her with somebody that had like a cool costume. So she was 100% engaged with every single person that went up there, and was very not rushing people through the line, but very like into what you were talking about. I absolutely love that. I said, okay, and I've had friends of mine that have met her before at WWE signings, and they all said she's very engaging, very loving with the fans, like wants to know what's going on with you, and will pretty much answer any question. Like, does not, there literally could have been a legit dumpster fire behind her, and I don't think she would have noticed because she was that focused on the fans. And I absolutely love that. So I was like, okay, I really have a really good shot here. Go up to the table. They scanned my two things, and they said, do you want anything inscripted on any of these? So Lily's artwork was an absolute no. No, I don't want anything on that. But on the program, I want to the Stardom cast for two different reasons. Number one is when she reads the Post-it pad, she's going to sign it, and then I'm going to see maybe if, through a facial expression, if she knows what the Stardom cast is. And two, now, Rob, I've said this to you in private, and I've said this in public before, that if something was to happen to me and that I was to perish, that everything in my bank account goes to my lovely wife, Amber, but all of my collection goes to my daughter, Lily. Now, however, this program, Rob, because you are the Stardom cast, you are the godfather of the podcast. So if something happens to me, this program is yours, sir, because it is addressed to the Stardom cast.
Well, thank you so much. It's slightly morbid that was the thought process behind it.
No, that was just a joke. That's really just a joke.
But I love it nonetheless.
I'm sure Amber will send it to you. Anyway, it's on the podcast. Don't edit that out. No, I'm wearing my now, and I posted these pictures all over social media, And if you're not on social media, I know there's a handful of listeners that aren't. Send me an email. I'll send you the pictures. I'm wearing my Stardom Cast shirt with Kairi holding up the IWGP Women's Championship from the night that she beat Mayu for the title. And I kind of did that on purpose just to see maybe if it's like Mercedes is very well said that Kairi's one of her favorite opponents she's ever had. She loves wrestling Kairi. She loves Kairi as a person. Plus, that's a belt that Kairi's holding on in the shirt that Mercedes has held for a handful of months. So I was like, maybe maybe that'll kind of maybe catch her eye. So now it's my turn to get my stuff signed first. And before I can even say a word, she looks at me and she goes, "Oh my God, I love your shirt." And then she starts to sign, and then she sees the Stardom Cast as she's signing, and then she looks at my shirt, looks back at the autograph, looks back on my shirt. Now, Rob, I could be completely wrong, but from the facial expressions that I saw, she was starting to put one and one together and may or may not know of the Stardom Cast. So we start talking, and I do let her know, hey, I have a Stardom podcast. If you go back and watch your match with Hazuki and Azumi, we've actually given notes to Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton, and they make mention of us on the podcast. I point at the program. I said, we've given notes for that entire show. We would love to have you on the podcast. Now, before I go any further, we did have a very fantastic conversation on my daughter's artwork. And I'm going to circle back to that because I'm going to end with that because that is your, it's a wrestling podcast. That's your high spot. And it's one of the greatest conversations I've ever had with any celebrity was our conversation with Lily's artwork. So I'm going to leave that out at this time and I'm going to finish with that. So talking about the show, the podcast, her wrestling in Japan. And she said, yes, absolutely. Someday I would like to come on your podcast. I said, how do I get a hold of you? She's like, do you have a business card? Rob, of course I do. I'm a very well-prepared man. Not only did I want one business card, I had two, just in case. So I gave her the two business cards, and I said, hopefully we will talk soon. And again, the conversation is a little bit longer because of the conversation we had with Lily's artwork as Mercedes drawn as in the Hana Kimura gear. Again, I will circle back to that. So I'm leaving, and I was like, wow, that was absolutely fantastic. She was so nice. And I'm walking towards the end of Artist Hour where the autograph session is because I paid extra money to have these the two autographs authenticated. So I get my stuff and I text you and I'm like, I think we got her. Everything went real well. Here's the cliff notes. I'll tell you on the podcast. So now I start thinking, Rob. Now, I know we talked about this in private. I don't know if we've ever talked about this in public in the podcast, but I was raised that whenever somebody says they're going to do something, you take them at your word. And also, if you tell somebody that you're going to do something, you take them you give them your word. There's no contract needed. There's no handshake. For example, if my wife said before I left for work, by the time you come home from work, I'm going to be a world-class gymnast, I would take her at her word. If you said, hey, Matt, on our next alternate commentary, we're doing a Fukin death match. During every 2 count, I'm going to throw confetti at the screen. I'm going to be dressed up as a clown for the entire episode. Rob, I'm taking you at your word. Now,
to be fair, that is an excellent idea. Maybe next month, Matt. Maybe next month.
Who knows, brother? Who knows? So now also, and I know we've had this conversation a few times before, and I don't know if we've had it on the podcast. In my 20 plus years and counting of being involved in the great sport of professional wrestling, I cannot tell you how many times I've been promised something that has never come through. And I'm not going to mention any names, any promotions. I'm not going to bury anybody. That's not what I do. That's not what you do. That's not what we do. But to give you some example, folks, in the last 20 years, I've been told, hey, you're going to have a dark match coming up. Hey, you're going to have a tryout coming up. Make sure you're ready. Get your passport ready because Japan's calling. You want to go to England for 6 weeks? You want to go to Germany for 2 months? Have your passport ready. It's coming. Hey, make sure you're not booked this day because we're bringing this tag team in to work you and Andy. Hey, keep these dates open because we're flying this guy in from Japan to work you. 9.5 times out of 10, never happened. I'm not complaining. I understand. Sometimes people bullshit you. Sometimes things fall through. Now, I will say this, Rob. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I can kind of read people really well. And I know a lot of our listeners are thinking, Matt, did Mercedes kind of just blow smoke? I don't think so. I think she was really genuine. I think she really, really wants to come on the show. Now, is it going to take a little bit extra work for me and you to try to break down some doors to try to reel her in? I think so. I think so. And we are not opposed to any hard work at all, folks, at all. So get my stuff done. And I'm walking around the con floor about an hour later, and I bump into my buddy Peter Melnick. Now, I'm going to give my buddy Peter Melnick a little free advertisement here. Pete, you're welcome, buddy. My buddy Peter is phenomenal in the podcast world. He has a fantastic podcast called The Marvelist, where he talks about, you guessed it, Rob, Marvel. He talks about comic books, the TV shows, the movies, the whole nine. Now, Peter has had some fantastic guests on, like the late, great Neil Adams. He's had on Mark Ruffalo, who is Bruce Banner in the MCU. He's had John Romita Jr. on a handful of times, Jeff Loeb, Todd McFarlane. I mean, Pete knows how to get, the big mucky mucks in comic books. He's like, hey, man, how'd it go? Did you get it? And I said, yes, but I'm not 100% confident with it. And he said, what happened? So I told him what I just, told you. And he said, did you get her contact information? I said, no, I gave her my contact information. He's like, you needed to find some sort of publicist, an email, something where you can maybe get a hold of somebody that can get a hold of you. And he goes, for example, she has your information. You don't have hers. It's like, who's busier, Mercedes Monet or you and Rob? And I said, Melnick, how dare you have any idea how busy we are? Rob's writing 10 books. I have a teenage. I didn't say that. And he's like, hey, man, look, he's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, I absolutely love you. You guys are doing great work there. It's only a matter of time. He's like, I'll help you. He's like, we'll figure it out. He's like, don't worry about you. We'll figure it out. We'll get you there. I was like, okay, man, no problem. Whatever. So 3:00 is my photo op. I line up around 2, and I'm in line, and I see behind me is my buddy Chris. Now, my buddy Chris, he is a phenomenal cosplayer for wrestlers. He was dressed up as Shawn Michaels from SummerSlam 1995 when he had the second ladder match with Razor Ramon.
I did see
all
that.
The blue gear.
He looked incredible.
All the blue gear. So he was literally like 2 people behind me. Then 2 or 3 people in front of me were listeners of the podcast. So we're chatting. We're having a good time. I'm handing out stickers, business cards. We're having a good time, right? So again, you're doing the photo op. You get to my time. I go in, and it's like, I walk on, it's like, hey, she's like, oh, hey, good seeing you. And I was going to ask her if she can point at the shirt. She already did, right? I'm pointing at the shirt. She's pointing at the shirt. The photo came out fantastic. We get the photo, and then I go to buy the little protective sleeve so I don't bend it in my book bag. And then me, Chris, a whole bunch of our listeners, we just start talking. We have an impromptu photo shoot. They're like, hey, let's take pictures right here, right coming out of Mercedes' line. And I did show you the picture. All of a sudden, some guy dressed up as The Rock, he shows up in the picture. A few more people that noticed who I was because of the shirt, they show up in the picture. My friend Carol, who last year dressed up as Tony Storm. I made mention last week that she was supposed to dress up as Bull Nakano. She didn't. She just happened to show up out of nowhere dressed as Ruby Soho. She gets in the picture. All of a sudden, security guard comes over. This very nice older lady was like, look, I see you guys are having fun, and I'm glad. But people aren't here paying to get pictures of you. They're paying to get pictures of Mercedes. Basically, like, in the nicest way possible, kick this out, right? So
do you know who I am? I am Matt Turner of the Stardom cast.
So, needless to say, so now I'm exhausted. And I told you, Rob, off air, I didn't sleep much this weekend, and I'm not going to get into the reasons why. I didn't sleep that much. I had everything that I needed to do was done. Sunday was just a bonus day. I had everything was done. That was my main thing. I met Chris Evans on Friday. Phenomenal experience. Mercedes was on a scale out of 1 to 10. She was 1,000. Absolutely amazing. So I was text my buddies. I'm like, you guys need me to do anything? So I'm going back to the hotel. I need an hour and a half nap before we go out. Yeah, no problem. Go back to the hotel. There's nobody there. It's just me, silence. I get about an hour and change nap. I wake up to my phone, Rob, blowing up. People are texting me. People are tweeting at me, Instagramming me. You got to check your Instagram. You got to check your Instagram. You got to check your Instagram. Now, Rob, I'm groggy. I slept 7 hours in 3 days. And the first thing is like, oh no, did somebody hack my Instagram? Oh, that's my first thought. And then I finally was asking my one buddy, I said, what's going on? I'm on my Instagram. I'm not seeing anything. They're like, no, go on Mercedes' Instagram. She posted the picture of me and her from the photo op on her story. 6.5 million people follow her. So, and again, the photo, Rob, you've seen it. It's me smiling, pointing at the shirt. Like it's like a free advertisement. I'm like, oh my God, that is so amazing. Even if we get like one listener out of this. I mean, so amazing. She did not have to do that. She did that with a good amount of people where she would take the picture that they had and just post it on her Instagram story. It's like, oh my God, like that is so cool. That is, it's amazing. So come to Sunday, I'm kind of just, walking around, just, doing a couple things, getting a couple autographs, nothing major. And then my buddy Peter, the one I just talked about, texted me and he said, "Hey man, I did the photo op with Mercedes. I think he called her Sasha in the text with Mercedes. And as I was leaving, I looked at her. I go, you know what? You should really do the Stardom Cast podcast." He goes, "Dude," her eyes lit up. She smiled. And he goes, "Do you work for them or with them?" He said, "No, I'm a fan of the show, and Matt is a really, really good friend of mine." I text Peter later that night, or maybe it was Monday. And he's like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "You guys just keep doing what you're doing." He's like, "We'll figure something out. I am fully confident she will do the show." On a scale of 1 to 100, Rob and our fantastic listeners of the Stardom Cast podcast, do I think Mercedes can do the show? I'm going to say I'm about 95% sure.
Wow.
Again, it's going to take a little bit of work. We're going to have to track a few things down to try to get a hold of her or a publicist. But I think we're going to do it with the growth of the show. And I know you fantastic listeners would love for Rob and I to interview one Mercedes Moné on the show. I always say at the end of the show, it's just not my podcast, it's our podcast. And by all means, folks, help us out. Share the YouTube channel, share the podcast, tweet at her. But he's like, I think that she knows who you guys are. Now, Rob, I'm going to end this segment with what might bring a tear to my eye on this podcast. So bear with me. I'm going to get a little bit of a drink here. This is very much going to be like a Widow Tai Queen's Quest cage match, my friend. So
Jesus, I don't think I'm ready for this, man. Christ.
Well, okay, I made mention that I had 2 things signed. So after she signed the program, she looked at the picture. And again, if I posted the picture before, unsigned and signed. And again, if you're not on social media and you wanted to see it, shoot me an email or whatever. I'll show you the picture. She looked at the picture of my daughter's drawn of her as Hana Kimura, again in the gear that she won the IWGP Women's Championship, and she immediately just stopped what she was doing. She goes, "Oh my God, who drew this?" I said, "My daughter drew it." She goes, "You tell your daughter, she is so talented." She's like, "This is absolutely beautiful." She's like, "I absolutely love this." I said, "Mercedes, I think I speak on behalf of a majority, if not all, of the Stardom fans when I say thank you. Keeping the spirit and the love alive of one Hana Kimura." I was like, we really appreciate what you did in your first match, for the championship, is that you could have came out dressed up as anybody, and you came dressed up as Hana, keeping her spirit and memory alive. I said, that means so much to us on the Stardom fan base. And she's like, "And the fact that your daughter drew that." I said, "Yeah." And we got little dusty onions in there, Rob. I'm not going to lie. Got a little dusty onions. So, and that's when I pitched the podcast. She signed everything needed to sign. And then right before I left, she goes, please tell your daughter how much I absolutely love this picture and how much it means to me that she drew it.
That's amazing. What a lovely, wholesome story. And I've seen the picture of, obviously, the picture of Mercedes that she's drawn and painted, and it is incredible. And I'm so glad that Mercedes actually got to see it, because she is very talented. We've talked about it before. The picture of Aphrodite that Lily did was incredible as well. But I'm glad you managed to get that signed, because that is going to be priceless.
Yeah, it's a 1-in-1. It's a 1-in-1 So that might go in the coffin with me, buddy. We're going to go back to being more of it, but you get the program.
Jesus,
but
Matt!
No, I had to. Honestly, it was. And I've met so many great people at New York Comic Con. Some people that are no longer with us, like George Perez and Neil Adams and Stan Lee and Carrie Fisher. They were all phenomenal. A++. Paul Rudd probably ranks right up there as one of my favorite. This one might beat it just because of how genuine she was, how just fantastic she was. The fact that she commented on my shirt before I even said anything, just the fact that she was so dead set on how, letting her know how much it meant to us, the Stardom fan base, for her to come out on that giant show in California back at the beginning of the year, dressed up as Hana Kimura. And it was a nice little, moment that we had. But I know there was a lot of people that I've talked to before and afterwards that, I made a lot of new friends on social media because of the stuff that I posted. It was like, "Oh, you're the guy from the Stardom cast. Well, here's this meeting I had with her, and I met her 5 or 6 times prior, and she remembered me from these meetings. It really seems like Mercedes Moné is one of the nicest people out there. Like I said, buddy, this is out of the 11, 12 years that I've gone to New York Comic Con. This might be my favorite experience, was that time with Mercedes. And again, folks, fingers crossed, we're gonna the old saying, find a way or make one. We will, not unless she signs to WWE, because then it'll be really, really hard to get her. But I am really, really confident. It may not happen at the end of this year. It may not happen at the beginning of this year. It may not happen until summer of next year. But as long as the podcast keeps growing, and boy, howdy, it is growing like crazy. We can't thank you enough. As long as this podcast keeps growing and Rob and I keep doing what we're doing with all the help of you, the friends and family of the Stardom cast, I don't see any reason why we can't have her or really anybody else on the show, brother.
No, absolutely not. And I will just say, obviously, you mentioned Chris Evans. I assume you didn't go chest to chest with him, and for all your claims that he was only a small man, the picture that you sent me, the one that Kirsty was very interested in, by the way, I don't see it. I still think it would be a very strong fight between yourself and Captain America, Matt.
One or three things happened, buddy. You could figure out which one they did. So quick, the picture was quick. I'm going to give you option number 1 is I double wrist lock him. Option number 2 is as I was leaving, he said, "You tell Rob Goodwin that I enjoy the Hananu theme." Option number 3 is I went with my buddy's bet and said, "Don't mention Captain America. Mention him as Jake Wilder from Not Another Teen Movie." So you take your pick. You take your pick on what happened. Yes, it was option number 3. Literally, you walked in and I put his arm around me, which sometimes when you get to these photo ops, you want to respect people's privacy, especially, post-COVID and whatnot. So you don't know if they want to stay away. I literally walked over, he put his arm around me. We took the picture as I walked away, and I said, "Chris, bring back Jake Wilder." And he goes, "Oh my God, I love that guy. I love that character." And I was like, how many people, especially at Comic-Con, like he's Captain America. How many people at Comic-Con are talking about Captain America? Everybody. And rightfully so. I bring up a role that he had one time back when I was still in either high school or college when they did Not Another Teen Movie, a spoof movie where he was Jake Wilder. I guarantee you it doesn't happen that often. But the 20 seconds I was there with Captain America, he was fantastic.
Good. I imagine that he's fine with people mentioning Captain America. It's obviously a role that he was hugely known for. What I don't imagine that he is okay with is people reminding him that he was the Human Torch in those terrible Fantastic Four films. I imagine anyone that brought those up was quickly dismissed with a cold shoulder. But anyway, Matt, as lovely as it is to hear your exploits in New York, and I'm so glad you had a good time. Let's talk about Stardom, more specifically, what's coming up on our Patreon.
Rob Goodwin, in the near 2 years that me and you have been doing this podcast together, there's 2 things that I've known. Is that 1, me and you cannot read or understand a calendar, and 2, we get more we get more bang for your buck, or we get more than your money's worth if you're part of our Patreon. And folks, what I mean by that, I realized just a few days ago that there are 5 Mondays in the month of October, and if you're part of our Patreon, you know that every Monday the audio for the alternate commentary releases. So we always pick 4. We realized we had to pick 5. So Rob and I decided in about 3 seconds that the bonus episode at the end of the month for the alternate commentary will be the finals of this year's 5-star Grand Prix with Micah versus Suzuki. So if you have not picked up your subscription yet, you are going to get another bonus episode for the month of October. So as far as what has been released recently on the Stardom Cast Extra, the Patreon, Rob Goodwin, Sherry's SWA full review that is up on the Patreon, as well as Azumi versus Starlight Kid from the Triangle Derby finals, where Azumi comes in as champion and Starlight Kid comes in as challenger. And as well, we will no longer call them alternate commentaries. It's just a buddy watch along. And buddy, oh buddy, we had fun with this one. We go to Dream Slam from 93, was it?
It was
with
indeed.
Akira Hokuto versus Shinobu Kandori, which is just an absolute blast watching that one. So, that is what we have released on the Patreon. And then coming up this early next week, we will be doing the alternate commentary of Starlight Kid challenging Julia for the Wonder of Stardom Championship back from February of 2021 in the legendary Corkin Hall. Also, my friend, before I forget, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm giving you 7 days notice, my friend, that next week when we do this little segment, we will be revealing what we'll be doing for the month of November for our alternate commentaries. And the theme will be instant classic. So anything from the beginning of April until present day Stardom, you can pick any two matches. Now, hint, Rob Goodwin, there was a giant show that happened in the beginning of April. So you have lots to choose from, my friend.
Okay, so I've got 7 days to pick instant classics. Okay, I reckon I can probably sort you out there. I reckon I'll probably be all right with that. But of course, not just all those things, but Matt, we have got our latest What If dropping this Sunday on the Patreon feed for our white belt tiers and above. I'm extremely excited about this one. What if Kairi hadn't left Stardom in 2022? We're going to come up with a slightly catchier title, but effectively we are going to rebook the run of Kairi in Stardom from a re-debut back at World Climax all the way through to whenever me and Matt sort of run out of steam. To say that our views and our ideas are very, very different, Matt, I think would be something of an understatement.
Yeah, it really is. And considering the fact that when you had your idea what you were going to do, I was like, wow, I was kind of blown away. And not to do any spoilers. And because we usually agree on 90% of things. So it was nice to get two completely different things. So right after we recorded, me and Amber were sitting down having dinner. And she's like, what did Rob do? And I said, he completely blew everything out of the way. I said, this is what he did. And he goes, oh, man, if he was going to do that with her and have her join that group, he should have had her come out as a zombie pirate. And I was like, oh, my God, how genius is that?
What?
Yeah!
Oh, incredible. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was so close to having her dress as a clown pirate and have a team with Fukigen Death and win the tag league, but I managed to restrain myself. I imagine there'd be some sort of clown pirate pun out there that I can't quite think of because I'm not clever enough. But...
Only on the Stardom Cast Extra can you have it all, my friend, especially in the wild, wacky adventures of What If.
Exactly. So that is dropping on Sunday. The week after will be the round table. That will drop the Sunday after. And then I believe we are in, or will be close to, November, which is terrifying how quick this year is going, Matt. But it's been a great year full of amazing things. And again, thank you to everyone who has been a part of this journey this year. I just want to shout out a couple of brand new patrons: Travis Boswell, Stella Stephen, Jacob Woolley, and the Stardom Samurai. Thank you all for your support, and thank you for joining the Stardom Cast Extra. It's been an incredible month of growth. As I mentioned last week, the last quarter of the year is the most downloads we've ever had over a 4-month period. So thank you to everyone that listens, from the US, where, the majority of our listens come. Hello to people in the US, the UK, Australia. We have some in Iran, apparently. If you're listening in Iran, hello, thank you for your support. It still boggles my mind, and I said this to Matt when he was talking about people stopping him at New York Comic Con and saying, oh, listen to your show. I still find it mind-boggling that this isn't just me and Matt talking into the void. So thank you to everyone that talks to us, that engages with us, that subscribes, that listens. You guys are all absolutely phenomenal, and we thank you massively for all of your support.
I appreciate the Black Sabbath reference that you didn't even know that you did, buddy. The Black Sabbath reference. You said Into the Void. Appreciate you.
Into the Void. Yeah. Mate,
Genius.
I was there. So let's delve into a little bit of news then, before we go into the shows that we're going to be talking about today. First things first, as though As if by magic. Unfortunately, we talked last week about the Nagoya Golden Fight show, which of course was main evented by Tam defending the red belt against Oedo Tai's Natsuka Tora. And to say Tam took a nasty bump when she was attempting to, I think it's safe to say, Matt, trying to save the Violet Screwdriver and trying to protect Tora as well. In doing so, she took a very nasty spill. Her knee bent in a completely unnatural direction. When we recorded last week, nothing had been announced, but must have been an hour or so after we'd finished recording, which always seems to be the way. It was announced that Tam would be missing this weekend, as in the weekend just gone, those shows. So the 14th in Saitama and the opening night of the Stardom Goddess of Stardom Tag League, which would mean that her and Yuna Mizumori, the Cosmic Angels team, would forfeit their first match of the tournament. Alongside that, not necessarily an injury, but Azumi was also taken off those two cards as a precaution. So there's quite possibly like lingering injuries, niggling injuries. I think it's fair to say, Matt, as a pro wrestler, you are more often than not working your way through injuries. But Azumi was taken off as a precaution. It seems, fingers crossed, that she is okay. She's wrestled today as we record at Natsu Sumire's 10th anniversary show. So she has wrestled. So fingers crossed it is just a small precautionary thing. But Matt, the injuries don't stop, and they do seem to be piling up somewhat for Stardom.
Yeah, we literally went with Aya Sakura, the rookie. It was like, okay, hey, kid, heal yourself back up, get back soon. Then we had poor Saya Kamatani, the night one of the 5-star. And then everybody thought it was going to be Utami winning it. And then she had to pull out for we thought was maybe one show. Then we thought maybe it was 2 shows. And now she's on the shelf indefinitely, as well as Natsupoi. And now you have Tam hurt, and you have Azumi hurt. But yeah, it does look like the Azumi one. You did say she wrestled on the show today. I know tomorrow, I believe, to record this is Wednesday, tomorrow being Thursday. I didn't know there's a Korakuen show. They did if you go when obviously we're going to review it here towards the end, when they did the entrances for the the opening ceremonies, if you will, for the Goddess of Stardom Festival, they did have Yuna come out without Tam and Miyu coming out without Azumi. So that is telling me that their injuries aren't serious and that those teams will be available sometime in the tournament. Again, we talked about this the last few weeks. I think it's just a combination of Stardom just running maybe one too many shows, and just the fact that these girls are going, all out, for the lack of a better term, is they're really going out there, making sure the fans get the money's worth. And a lot of these shows we're going to talk about here shortly, there are only 5 matches. And maybe if you're going to keep running more shows, which is fine, it's more exposure for Stardom. The girls are going to be making more money. It's going to make fans happy because, Stardom's coming to my town, big, small, medium, indifferent. Maybe be like, okay, Azumi, you set out these 3 or 4 shows. Okay, Tommy, you set out these 3 or 4 shows. Julia, you set out these 3, 4 shows. And then maybe just have somebody, and they very much like they do, with the bigger shows with WWE, is just like, okay, we're going to have this person take maybe 5 or 6 days off just to kind of heal themselves and to kind of, let them go and enjoy themselves. So I know a lot of people on social media are like, they're running too many shows. They're running too many shows. I don't agree with that. I just think that if you're going to keep running this many shows or try to run more, we made mention last week, they're going to try to run more shows in 2024. I'm not against that, especially with the roster expanding the way that it is. Just start maybe factoring some of these wrestlers out to give them some time off to heal up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people compare it to New Japan, and, there are certainly similarities. But, of course, you look at, for example, the best of the Super Juniors, where they give the heavyweights time to recover. The same with the G1 Climax that gives the juniors sort of a time to recover. I think the amount of shows isn't necessarily the problem. It's the amount of big shows where you are required to give 110%. October alone, by the time we finish October, there will have been 4 pay-per-views. which is astronomical. Having multi-woman tags, in the middle of Hiroshima, for example, you're not going to have someone, unless you're Hazuki, because she's got one gear and that is all out. But you're not going to have people going the same as if you've got a high-profile singles match or a high-profile title match, which pay-per-views more often than not are going to include. I mean, like I said, we had the closing night of the 5-Star Grand Prix. We then had Nagoya Golden Fight. We had the opening night of the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. And we have got the Halloween show, the Stardom Dark Night, at the end of this month. So I would argue it's not necessarily the amount of shows that they're running. I would argue it's the schedule that needs sorting. So if you are, and we talked about this last week, Matt, didn't we, about how, if you're doing a tournament, focus on the tournament. Don't try and insert, for example, the prime example, you've got the 5-Star Grand Prix. Don't run Stardom X Stardom in the middle of it. There's no need to do that. And again, it's just another pay-per-view where someone is going to have to go 110% when they don't necessarily need to. I think that is something that needs looking at. I'm like you, Matt. I am all for more Stardom shows. They're a touring brand. Stardom have come out and said how they get most of their money is from live shows, is from ticketing and live shows. So they're not going to cut their shows down because they're cutting into their own revenue. It makes no financial sense. However, a revamped schedule might be something that Stardom need to look at. And again, it's a lot of this is bad luck. I mean, no one could have predicted Saya Kamatani's injury. Like, that could have been her only match of the year. That's nothing to do with the schedule. That's just poor luck. And I don't know, actually, speaking of Saya Kamatani, I don't know if you've seen the newspaper article she's released about how she might change her in-ring style when she comes back. I don't know how much of it is kayfabe. I haven't looked at it that much, or whether it's a legitimate article. I think it's legitimate. But she said about potentially changing her in-ring style after her injury, which, if that's the case, I'll look forward to seeing what she changes it to, because the stories Saya was able to weave were fantastic. But what do you think, Matt? Do you think it is more a case of scheduling rather than amount of shows? Do you think Stardom could benefit from changing a few things around, spacing a few of the tournaments out? I mean, obviously, we haven't had confirmation yet that the Triangle Derby will be returning at the start of the new year. I'm assuming it is, but you would hope that they sort of start either spacing the shows out or making the schedule shorter, as Julia suggested for the 5-Star.
Yeah, do a little bit of both. Again, my friend, you mentioned about how Stardom makes a majority of their revenue on touring, and you do not want to cut into that. And plus, they have a touring bus now, so they're not going to stop touring, folks. They're not going to.
They do have a tour bus.
Yeah, so there you go. They have the official Stardom tour bus, which Mayu has jumped off of, in which we should have been able to predict that a year ago. But no, again, what I mentioned before, I think just kind of the best way to go about it is kind of rotate some of the wrestlers in and out of these tours, and then maybe give longer matches to a Momo Kogo, to a Saida. I'd love to see like a Han versus Sherry go, to a 15-minute time limit draw, something like that. You can start maybe, Hanako. She had a phenomenal match with Mina Shirakawa on one of these shows we're going to talk about. I'd love to see her get a little bit more time in the ring in a singles match. Highlight some of these wrestlers. Maybe bring in some of the local wrestlers like you see, WWE would do from time to time. Bring them in. Whether they're not under contract with somebody, bring some of these. During the summertime, bring some of the wrestlers that aren't in school that we see on New Blood. Bring Minoru Tanaka's daughter in from time to time for a show, just to kind of stretch the roster out and give, your Sayas, your Tommys, your Julias, your Mayus, your Hanans, a little bit of time off. And even if they don't like it, because I know majority of these Stardom shows, they do the meet and greets beforehand. And I've seen like the lines for them and people meeting their favorite stars. Even if it's like, okay, everybody wants to meet Mayu, right? Everybody wants to meet Mayu. Mayu's not wrestling on this show, but if she's well enough to tour, it's like she's only going to come do a meet and greet and an autograph, maybe a promo. So at least you'll still see her, but she's not taking the bump. So it's like, she's not injured. She needs a day or two off. She's going to tour with us so this way she kind of makes her appearance. Obviously, Utami with her injury and Natsupoi, they need to be at home healing. But you could even do stuff like that where it's like, hey, they're not going to be on the show. However, we're doing a special meet and greet with a Mayu or a Zumi, a Julia, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different ways they can do it. It is a lot of it trial and error. I don't think the majority of these injuries are because, Stardom just won't stop and this, that, and the other thing. A lot of it, folks, believe it or not, has to do with bad luck. I mean, no, and again, Saya's injury, she is a dive that she's done a zillion times before, and you go back and watch it. And I said it's on this show, and I've said this a zillion times. I'll never watch a match that somebody gets injured. Obviously, that match I watched live, she's done that dive a zillion times before. I know it's a very risky dive off a lighting fixture, but there was like all of Cosmic Angels and all of Queen's Quest there to catch Saya, and they did. It's not like anybody dropped her or anything like that. It was just she just came down at the wrong part on the wrong time. Injuries do happen, folks. Again, this is a very violent sport. Pro wrestling is a very violent sport. I mean, I watch a lot of American football. There's a lot of injuries that happen there. Rob, obviously you're big into, we call them state soccer. You call over there football. I'm sure your teams are littered with injuries all the time. Baseball, basketball, it happens. We are abusing our bodies for the entertainment of the fans. And that's why I always quote Roddy Piper on the show. I'm going to quote him again. Anybody that answers the bell, I have the ultimate respect for. And I think that's why we need to be so harsh. Stop being so harsh, not just on Stardom wrestlers, but wrestlers in general. We're really taking time away from our families to, I know it sounds barbaric, but it's the truth, to literally throw ourselves on the ground, on the mat for your entertainment. So don't be so critical, folks. Don't be so critical. And say thank you to a pro wrestler.
Absolutely. Hashtag thank a pro wrestler. I will just say that's actually a really good sort of idea that you come up with, maybe rotating wrestlers off of certain shows, especially in Tokyo, where, Stardom run the majority of their shows in Tokyo. If you have the odd show in Tokyo where Mayu isn't going to be turning up, or Utami isn't on it, or a Tam isn't on it, then that there's going to be another Tokyo show very soon where they are going to be on the card. Like, if it's somewhere where they don't run very often, like Okinawa, for example, then fair enough. Then, get all the big hitters on because that you're only going to have one show in that area. But in Tokyo, like, they run Korakuen every month. They still run Shinkiba. There's lots of different areas in Tokyo where they could go, right, well, we're not going to have Mayu on this show. Right, we're going to give Utami time to rest. Right, we're going to give Saya time to rest. I think that could work. Whether it's something that they look at in the future or whether this changes at all, I don't know. But we'll find out. Moving on in the news then, Stardom announced during their joint business strategy meeting with New Japan that Stardom would be taking part, should I say, as a part of the Bushi Road Expo in Thailand. And the wrestlers going out are going to be Shiori, Waka Tsukiyama, Mina Shirakawa, and Yuna Mizumori. Basically, that is going to be a Stardom special tournament with Shiori taking on Waka Tsukiyama and Mina taking on Yuna Mizumori. And we have got a special showcase match from Setup in Thailand, the pro wrestling organisation in Thailand that is a part of the new Pacific Wrestling Association that they announced, with wrestlers Jenny and Matcha taking a singles match as well. So that's going to be the show from October 21st and October 22nd in Bangkok, in Thailand, which is going to be actually this weekend. So if it's on Stardom World, which I assume it's going to be, we'll talk about that next week. We talked a little bit about the negatives to do with Stardom, the touring and the injuries, but one of the huge positives coming out of Stardom this week is that Stardom has become the first Japanese promotion to cross 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So Stardom at the moment sits at 1 million. The second highest Japanese promotion is New Japan's Japanese channel, which currently sits at 517,000. So to reach 1 million before New Japan is very, very impressive. Sort of speaks to the upsurge of people watching Stardom, and hopefully it's going to be a trend that they continue. But yeah, excellent news for them, Matt. One thing I am just looking at as I look at the list published by Himanshu Doi, thank you very much, on Twitter, that Big Japan is actually third, ahead of both other New Japan YouTube channels. I thought that was really odd that Big Japan was third, but Stardom, first ones to reach 1 million. Excellent news, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but almost doubling New Japan's numbers. We just said New Japan was at like 517,000. So I wouldn't be shocked with the constant growth of Stardom, and the fact that more than likely that the aforementioned Mercedes Moné is probably going to be wrestling at the Stardom at that year-end show for Dream Queendom. So I would not be shocked by the end of the year that the Stardom numbers double New Japan numbers as far as YouTube subscribers go. So not only are they the number one wrestling company in Japan, they're probably, I don't have the stat in front of me, they're probably number 3 in the world. Obviously, WWE would be number 1, AEW would be number 2, and then I'm assuming that their YouTube subscribers are more than Impact's Wrestling. I'm just going to take a quick look here, my friend. But which would be that would be something for sure if that they're the third biggest wrestling company in the world. No, I'm way wrong. Impact has 4.7 million subscribers. So Samsonite, I'm way off on that one. But okay, so we'll stick with they're the biggest in Japan. Which, yeah, what a coup considering the fact that you have that giant that is New Japan. All Japan, I know, isn't what it was, but still what they were in the the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And Pro Wrestling Noah always does a good job putting on really good shows. But considering the fact that they're not only the first one to 1 million subscribers on YouTube, the fact they're blowing everybody else out of the water is just a coup just to how fantastic Stardom is. And you have to give credit to the people that are editing and putting up all the videos as well, because they do a really good job, especially on the We Are Stardom channel on the Stardom Cast podcast, that a lot of the English speakers will go to, because that kind of breaks everything down and makes following Stardom a little bit easier.
Yeah, just to sort of follow on from your sentiments, All Japan isn't even mentioned on this list. Noah currently sits at 131,000 subscribers, with the next highest Joshi promotion being Ice Ribbon at 169,000. So, yeah, it's excellent work from Stardom, and long may it continue. Anyway, let's move on a little bit from news, and let's start looking at these 4 shows that we are going to talk about. I just want to quickly say that Azumi is next scheduled to be on a Stardom card on the 22nd of October, so this Sunday, where she'll be teaming with Miyu Amasaki as part of O2 Line against Fukuoka Double Crazy. I can't see them throwing her in the ring with Hazuki if there was any issues. So, at the moment, at Osaka Edion Arena number 2, Azumi will be on the card. Still no Tam on any of these cards, though. So whether they are just holding back on Cosmic Angels and just waiting for her to be fully fit before they then start doing all the Cosmic Angels matches, I don't know. But that's where we sit currently. So anyway, enough of that. Let's kick into some of these shows. So we start with Stardom in Nagano on the 7th of October at Nagano Arcs in front of 237 people. The results are as follows. The God's Eye team of Saki Kashima and Mirai defeated the Queen's Quest team of Miyu Amasaki and Lady C. Saki Kashima getting the pinfall over Lady C with the Mai emblem in 7 minutes and 57 seconds. In a 3-way match, Syuri, Amina Shirakawa and Hanan went to a 15-minute time limit draw. A tag team match next with Crazy Star, Mei Seira and Suzu Suzuki defeating the team of Yuna Mizumori and Tam Nakano, with Suzu pinning Yuna with the tequila shot in 12 minutes and 15 seconds. In the semi-main event, we had the Donna Del Mondo team of Mai Sakurai, Tekla, and Julia defeat the team of Megan Bain, Hanako, and Maika, with Mai Sakurai getting the pinfall over Hanako with the Mai Pan roll in 11 minutes and 16 seconds. And then in your main event, the Stars team of Mai Iwatani, Hazuki, and Koguma defeated the Uedatai team of Momo Watanabe, Nat Sakatora, and Ruaka, with Koguma getting the pinfall over Ruaka with a diving body press in 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Matt Turner, what should people be tuning in for on this show?
Rob, the main event was really, really excellent with the Stars team versus the Uedatai team. And I know that you're going to get a giant kick and chuckle at what I'm about to say. Now, all these shows I watched in my hotel room in New York City. So I'm watching this main event, and Kogama's taking the heat on a Uedatai, and it's a Uedatai, right? So they're doing the heat, and obviously Momo and Tora are the heavy hitters, and Ruaka's very good as well. And all of a sudden, Hazuki gets the hot tag, and I turn around, and I start talking to my buddy about something, and I look back down on my screen, and Hazuki is going crazy. Momo, Ruaka, and Tora are all on the ground. It was like 4 seconds. And I was like, I mean, you may be okay if it was Shuri. It's like, okay, Shuri. Anybody else? You're like, what happened? They're like, oh, they tagged in Hazuki. You know what I mean? And I just thought it was good. Oh, the match was really good, though. It was really good. The whole show was excellent. But as far as what that everybody needs to go see, if you have not seen these shows, I know literally 4 shows, if you're counting the pay-per-view, have been available in the last like 4 or 5 days. So I know it can be a little tricky to kind of be able to watch everything. Go out of your way to see this 3-way with Shuri versus Hanan versus Mina Shirakawa. I don't know of another 3-way in Stardom. Now, Stardom really don't do a lot of 3-way dances. But as far as singles 3-way dances, I don't know if there's a better one I've ever seen in Stardom. I'd really have to sit there and think about it. This is one of, if not the best 3-way that Stardom has ever done. Again, they have not done a lot. Now the tags and whatnot, yes, there's been better. But this was great. It literally starts out, Rob, with a Shuri, and now you got to keep in mind that these shows happen before the pay-per-view. So it's like we've already seen the pay-per-view. We've already reviewed the pay-per-view last week. But Shuri and Mina, if you remember, they had the UWF rules match. So they're kind of staring at each other, and Hana's like, what about me? And they basically just boot her and throw her out of the ring. And they just go at it with like striking. And then Hana just comes in and starts suplexing people left and right. So I figured, okay, like I understand they're using this to build up to sell more tickets and pay-per-views for the match coming up, which would be in 2 days. But every time Hana gets in there, she's just throwing people. Like she has this really awesome exchange with Shuri, and be like, okay, that's a match that I kind of had in the back of my head that I wanted to see, but now I really, really want to see it. But yeah, this 3-way was great. Out of all these 4 shows we're going to review, probably my second or third favorite match out of all 4 of these shows. It was that good. 4 1/4 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent match, my friend. Excellent match. Please definitely go and watch it. Crazy Star versus Tam and Yuna was terrific. I mean, it's Mai, Sarah, and Suzu Suzuki are slowly becoming my favorite tag team in all of wrestling, and they did have my favorite match out of these 4 shows, which I'm sure you can figure out in about 4 seconds which match that was. Obviously, this match is to further along build up the story with Suzu and Tam. They have some bombs. They throw some absolute bombs in this match. That match is really, really good as well. And Yuna does a great job. When this match is starting, who's taking the pinfall. And maybe Yuna Mizumori is now the Saeed of Cosmic Angels. But she looks great. I mean, she looks great. Her look, she's trimmed down. She's tan. She looks in fantastic shape. She works very well with Tam. Her and Suzu have some great exchanges. Her and Mai Sierra have a little bit of a small, high speed. That's where I'm looking for, like high speed segment, to the point where, like, man, if they're looking for challengers for Mai Sierra coming down the line, I would love to see Yuna and May go at it in a high speed match, because they had some really good stuff. Yeah, the match was really good. I had it at 3 3/4 stars, and everything else on the show was really good. But those are the 3 to highlight, again, with that 3-way with Han and Shuri and Mina Shirakawa, because they did not hold anything back, my friend.
I've heard good things about that match, to be fair. And there's been sort of a little bit of subtle teasing that Hanan is the one that Mina Shirakawa is going to target to join. At the moment, the 2 members of Club Venus, but we will see. We will see. We move on then to the show from the 8th of October, this time from Gifu in Japan, Taijimi City Industrial Cultural Center, in front of 284 people. And your results are as follows. We open with a three-way battle, Megan Bain pinning Tekla and defeating Koguma, because she was also part of the match, with an F5 in 6 minutes and 14 seconds. Crazy Star get another victory. Meisei and Suzu Suzuki. Meisei getting the pinfall over Miyu Amasaki, the team of Miyu and Lady C, in 9 minutes and 17 seconds with the Shooting Star. In another tag team match, Tam Nakano and Juna Mizumori, the Cosmic Angels team, defeated Hanako and Mina Shirakawa, with Tam getting the pin over Hanako in 8 minutes and 6 seconds with the Tiger Suplex. 6-woman tag next, with the DDM team of Mai Sakurai, Maika, and Julia getting the win over the Stars team of Mayu, Hanan, and Hazuki, with Maika pinning Hanan with the Enkara Toshi in 11 minutes and 7 seconds. And then in your main event, we had the Ueda Tai team 6-woman tag, Momo Watanabe, Natsuka Tora, and Ruaka defeating the God's Eye team of Saki Kashima Theory and Mirai, with Momo Watanabe pinning Saki with the Hidanatoshi driver. Matt, what was worth seeing on this show? What would you recommend?
Rob Goodwin, I would recommend, again, it's another Crazy Star match. Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, who are currently, now that Izumi's out, well, let's just say Izumi's still on the shelf, right? For the sake of this. Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, who are currently the A-team of Queen's Quest. I gotta make it. I love Queen's Quest. They're my favorites. But it's like, yeah, they're the go-to to the flag bearers. They team up really well together. They have some really good outings on this tour. But Mei Seira and Suzu Suzuki, they're fantastic as well. Really good stuff there. I had it 3 3/4 stars. Now, Mr. Rob Goodwin, the co-main event and the main event, I both have 4 stars. But if you're asking me which match I enjoyed better, I'm going with the co-main event. There's a bunch of it's 4 stars, so that's a pretty high rating. The main reason why I will slightly take the co-main event of DDM versus SARS over the main event of God's Eye versus Ueda Tai is based on the DDM team, Rob. They hit the Holy Demon Army finish on the Hanan. So that always, yes, it's with Julia and Micah doing the backdrop driver chokeslam combination, akin to my second favorite tag team of all time, the Holy Demon Army of Toshiaki Kawada and Akira Teru. You may be saying, Matt, who's your favorite tag team of all time? It is the Rock and Roll Express. That's a match I would love to see. Maybe that might be a what-if booking. Is the Holy Demon Army versus the Rock and Roll Express. Regardless, really good stuff. Hanan and Micah really do a great job tearing into each other. If you remember how good it was, the very first match on the 5-star Grand Prix from this year, and it was an excellent match. I know a lot of people were saying, man, if they got 2 or 3 more minutes, how good it could have been. And they kind of tease it here, like they're going somewhere. And of course, Hazuki's in the match, so her stuff with Julia is really good. Tekla's really kind of been almost like lost in the shuffle of this Micah, Julia, is Suzu Suzuki going to join thing. And Tekla's done a great job these past 3 or 4 shows, kind of separating herself and doing some different things in the match to kind of have people like, oh, yeah, we keep forgetting how really good Tekla is, which is nice and refreshing. It's nice to see. We mentioned before, Rob, about spacing out some of these tours to give some people some time off. I would love to see, if that's what's going to happen, have Tekla, give her a nice little push, maybe going towards like a white belt shot somewhere in 2024, because she was excellent on this tour. And again, you have Mayu, you have Hanan and Hazuki on the other side, so the match was really good. The main event was, Shiri, Saki, their Ruaka tour, they're all great. But this was, again, basically a setup for Momo and Mirai for the pay-per-view on the very next day. Again, it's a match we all watched. It's a match that we talked about last week. And you basically get like a mini version of that. It's just like really the two of them tearing into each other. Shiri comes in, does what she needs to do. Saki does the comedic stuff. Ruaka and tour are fine as well. But if you enjoyed, Momo versus Mirai from the Nagoya pay-per-view, which we all did. This is basically like the appetizer because this show took place the day before. So, yeah, co-main event and main event were both really good. But, if you only watch one match from the show, Maika, Julia, Tekla versus Mayu, Hanan, and Hazuki is the go-to.
It's funny you should mention Tekla, because I thought on the pay-per-view, which we're going to talk about later, I thought she was the standout of that throwaway tag. And I know that they were sort of highlighting Mai Sakurai as the one to really focus on. You know, the amazingly elegant new costume, the Okada dollars falling from the sky. But I thought Tekla was a real standout there and had some really good exchanges with both Miyu and Mirai. And I think you're right in saying that Tekla has got lost in the shuffle. And I think, if I'm being honest, it's probably since she dropped the SWA belt. I feel like in the wake of everything that's happened in Donna Del Mondo, with all of the tumult and uproar, and then Ice Ribbon coming back to attack Julia, I feel like Tekla has been sort of put by the wayside. And I know that she's had injuries as well, but even so, it's nice to remember that Tekla is bloody good in ring at times. As in, it's good to remember at times, not that Tekla is good at times. She's always good. I know what I mean. Let's move on. Let's move on to the show from the 14th. This one from Saitama in the Seiden Chemical Arena, Saitama Sub-Arena.
That's what I have written.
Yep, absolutely nailed it. 273 people. You can tell by this point that Stardom's roster is slightly thin because Fukigen Death is in a singles match. And we start with that singles match, Koguma defeating Fukigen Death with an O'Connor roll reversal in 5 minutes and 32 seconds. The match that Matt mentioned earlier on, it is a very good match. Mina Shirakawa defeating Hanako in 8 minutes and 33 seconds with the figure 4 leg lock. We then have a tag team match, Hazuki and Mai Iwatani of Stars defeating the Queen's Quest A team of Lady C and Miyu Amasaki, with Hazuki pinning Lady C with a diving senton. In the semi-main event, 6-woman tag, Megan Bain, Mei Seira, and Suzu Suzuki defeating the Ueretai team of Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora, and Ruaka, with Megan Bain pinning Ruaka in 8 minutes and 40 seconds with a choke bomb. And then in your main event, an 8-woman tag team match, the Donna Del Mondo team of Julia, Maika, Mai Sakurai, and Tekla defeat the God's Eye team of Amisori, Shiori, Saki Kashima, and Mirai in 13 minutes and 30 seconds with the greatest move in professional wrestling. Move aside, Macho Man Randy Savage, because there is a new diving elbow drop in town. It's her ladyship's Mai Sakurai's diving elbow drop. Yes, I am convinced that would finish any wrestler. Brock Lesnar, not a chance. Not a chance. Mayu Iwatani's resilience does not stand a prayer against Mai Sakurai's elbow drop.
Rob Goon, I have a what if that we're gonna do. What if we were to get your time machine? I'm convinced you have a DeLorean. We get in that DeLorean, we go 88 miles per hour, we fill that up with plutonium, we go to the early 1980s in Calgary, and we get the Heart Wrestling Bear to take on Mai Sakurai. Mai Sakurai lands that elbow on the Stampede Bear. Does the bear kick out, or does Mai Sakurai get the win? That's what I want to know.
I feel like, Matt, and I don't think I've ever been so confident of anything in my entire life. No one and nothing can survive the Mai Sakurai elbow drop. It's just too powerful. It's just too beautifully executed. There's no way anyone is kicking out of that, so I'm sorry, I've got to stick with her ladyship.
Now, Rob, while we're talking about Mai Sakurai, I think this is a great time to insert this in. Did you hear the rumors that the Artists of Stardom Championships with Mai Sakurai, Tekla, and Julia may be stripped because it's supposed to be 3 people on the team, and now they currently have 4. It's Julia, Tekla, Mai Sakurai, and Mai Sakurai's hat. Oh my god! I'm trying to hold that one in. I'm watching this show, and I was like, and I know she's had this hat before, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but because I was this was the match because this show happened, it came on Stardom World yesterday too, so I was home, and I was just watching it, and I was in, my own world. I didn't have all the Comic-Con stuff going with 84 people in our small room, and I was like, I know she's had that hat before. I don't know if it's just gotten bigger or I'm paying more attention, but I was like, holy geez, like, that thing needs its own zip code, and I absolutely love it. I would love for her to come out each month with like a bigger hat. It just keeps getting like bigger. Not every show, because then like maybe like each month or every 6 or 7 weeks, where the hat just gets bigger to the point where obviously Julie gets the grand entrance. She's the big star down the Mundo. Literally to the point though, where they have all the other members of DDM and the rookies have to pull the curtain over because they need all the room to get Mai Sakurai's hat in. I'm all for that, brother. I love it. I love it. Let's keep piling it out. Again, Mai Sakurai, she's doing something to separate herself. No disrespect to her and her fans. Is she going to be the best wrestler in Stardom? She's not going to be good as Julia, Micah, Mayu, Saika, yada, yada, yada. It's the best roster in all of wrestling. So what is she doing to separate herself? She's doing this ladyship gimmick. She's got the Okada dollars. She's doing that promo afterwards, win, lose, or draw. Now she's adding this giant 8-foot hat. So I love it. Move over, JR. There's a new person with a better hat in pro wrestling. Your 30-some-odd year reign is over.
I love the fact that she's got this enormous hat, and I love the idea of it just progressively getting bigger. I think it should be every time she gets a pinfall victory. Every time she gets a pinfall victory, just add another ridiculous thing to the hat, like another feather or a stuffed vulture or something like massive to the hat. Between that and the furry bear gloves that she's got going on as well, like, this costume is phenomenal. And now, with that money that comes down, she's throwing around. I love it. I absolutely love the gimmick. You're absolutely right, Matt. She's not going to be the greatest worker on the roster. Like, she's not a future red belt champion, you know, with all due respect. But she is so entertaining on that undercard. And some wrestlers need, you know, if you are on the undercard, separate yourself, make yourself stand out. And Mai Sakurai has done a wonderful job of that, to the point where she is extremely entertaining. And of course, that hat, absolutely tremendous.
You know what I was thinking, the hat, Rob? I don't know if you remember this episode of the Simpsons where Homer goes to, I want to say it's a football game or a baseball game, where he gets the nacho hat, where it's a sombrero made out of nachos, and the top is where you would rip out different parts of the hat to get the nacho and dip it into the nacho cheese. That's what I want to see. I want to see her coming with a nacho hat. Oh man. Stardom.
That would be incredible.
We know we have people that work for Stardom that listen to this podcast. I don't understand how you're not a $1 trillion company after listening to some of these wild ideas we have.
Can you imagine the merch sales of replica nacho Mai Sakurai hats? They'd be incredible. Go through the roof. You've got like little baby ones for children, and you just got them all. Oh, honestly, incredible. And like, as Mai Sakurai's delivering these post-match promos, you've just got kids munching on their hats. Oh, incredible.
You pan that, it's like Bret Hart in '94 with the glasses. Same thing.
Exactly. Every week, Mai Sakurai takes off this enormous hat and gives it to a child. And that child needs 8 adults to take that hat out of the building. Honestly, Stardom, we're giving you gold here. We're literally printing you money. The hat's really not that big. We have exaggerated it massively. It is bigger than your average hat. Anyway, Matt, this show, apart from Mai Sakurai's attire, what should we be checking out from Saitama?
I may mention, as soon as this match was over, I put on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, that Mina Shirakawa versus Hanako. By no means was it Flair versus Steamboat 89, but this was really good. Mina Shirakawa did not pull any punches at all this tour. She was like, it doesn't matter if I'm in the ring with Shuri and Hana for 15 minutes or I'm in the ring with the rookie for 8.5 minutes. I'm going to give these people a show, which I absolutely love. Mina Shirakawa did a great job making Hanako look good with the shoulder tackles, or anytime that Mina would go to the leg, Hanako would use her power to overpower, for lack of a better term, Mina Shirakawa. So, and again, this was, I don't know if there's a better, again, she's only been wrestling a handful of months, but this is the best match I've seen Hanako in. She was great in the match. Mina did a great job leading her. And that is what, we made mention a handful of months ago that Mina is now a full-time main eventer. Whenever they need her to go in a main event, whether it's a pay-per-view, whether it's, a smaller show in front of 300 people, whether it's a Corkin, she can do that. And one of the things that a constant main eventer needs to do is to be able to lead somebody through a match, whether they're mid-card, whether they're, close to the main event, or whether they're a rookie like Hanako, and she did. Again, this match by no means was it a 5-star classic, but it was really great. And you see the progression of both Mina as a constant main eventer, as Hanako, somebody coming up that I think the company's going to have, big plans for. I had it at 3 3/4 stars. And the next match, my friend, was probably my favorite match of the show, with Hazuki and Mayu Iwatani taking on Lady C and Miyu Amasaki, the current Queen's Quest A team. Now, I think how this one went was that as Lady C and Miyu got into the building, that Utami, Azumi, and Sayaka Matani, they all called them up and they said, "Hey, who you guys wrestling?" "Hazuki and Mayu." They said, "Well, you're representing Queen's Quest, Lady C. Since Azumi can't be there to kick somebody's head in, since Sayaka Matani can't be there to do her high-impact offense, since Utami's not there to clothesline Hazuki in the next week, you have to challenge us to go up to Hazuki." Now, of course, Hazuki gets in there with Lady C, and she goes full Hazuki mode. But there's one point where, Hazuki throws all those forearms, and she's doing Hazuki things that we love. Then she comes off the rope 1,000 miles an hour. Next thing you know, Lady C just throws her foot up and just kicks Hazuki's face in the front row. And I'm like, okay, is Lady C versus Suzuki the feud now that I really, really want to see? Because these two just beat the crap out of each other. Mayu was great, right? And Miyu, they did a great job getting Miyu in from time to time. And again, Miyu Amasaki is somebody that has improved so much the last 6 or 7 months. But I just love this violence with Lady C and Hazuki. I was like, all right, this is where we're going with this one. This is the psychology. As these two are going to fight, we're going to see Miyu from time to time. She's great. And Mayu's like the greatest wrestler ever. Let her do her thing when it's time. But I'm all for this almost shoot-style match, work-shoot-style match with Lady C and Hazuki. I thought it was great. Went less than 8 minutes. I had it at actually 3 3/4 stars. And the main event was good as well. I had that 3 3/4 stars as well, as Julie did a great job. Obviously she beat Ami Sourei a few weeks ago in Cork and Hall for the New Japan Strong Championship, to retain the Strong Championship. But she did a really good job, making Ami Sourei look like if she wants to, in a month or two, she can go back and challenge for the title again. I thought it was terrific, but it was kind of with Julia's all of her finishers, with Micah all of her finishers, and Tekla's great. I was like, oh, we ended the show with a diving elbow drop. I was like, I wonder what Rob's going to say about it. And brother, I think we said enough on it. I think we said enough. But the two standouts for me were Mina versus Hanako, and Mayu and Hazuki versus the new strong style Lady C and Miyu Amasaki.
Yeah, to be honest, we thought that obviously with the raft of injuries that now includes on this show Azumi and Tam, we assumed that there would be less matches that go longer. And there's only one match on this entire show, on the 5 matches, that actually goes above 10 minutes. Everything is sub 10 minutes apart from the main event, and that only goes 13 and a half minutes. So this is a really concise show, and it's a fun show. I wouldn't say that it's compulsory viewing by any stretch of the imagination. Matt, you already mentioned the progress in Hanako, and that's something that, I don't want to say she's benefited from Aya Sakura's injury, because that's really morbid and that's not what I mean. But because of Aya Sakura's injury, she has had to step up as the sole rookie left from that class of 3. And I think she's done tremendously well. She's looked powerful in her offense. She's selling really well. I think she sold really well against Mina here. I think she sold in parts very well on the Goddess of Storm Tag League opening night as well. So it's excellent to see that. Miyu Amasaki, it's a really interesting dynamic between Miyu and Lady C. Because in that tag team, Lady C and Miyu, you would assume that Lady C is the more senior of the pair. Yeah, it's Lady C that's eating the pinfall. And I find that really, really interesting, because obviously they are protecting Miyu because they see a lot of potential in Miyu, and I think she's improved a lot since her debut against Utami back at the first New Blood show. But as well, Miyu is another one who is literally taped to the gills. Did you see how much tape is on her back at the moment?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it in the last show, the show before. Miyu just seems like she's adding more and more tape, very much to like Mai Sakurai's hat. Again, we'll try to get off that. Oh man, that's our new bit, brother. New bit. Yeah, you're right, and she's still going full force. She's still doing the handspring elbow. She's still taking some big bumps. She might be one again. She's not. Well, I was gonna say she's not a main eventer, but she's going to be very important in these Goddess of Stardom tag matches because she is teaming with Azumi, and the two of them have really gelled really well together. From the beginning of the summer up until now. So, yeah, I'd like for maybe to see Miyu Amasaki. Maybe if she's not, doesn't have any O2 line matches, coming up in some of these tours, maybe hold her back, a day or two to maybe so she can heal up a little bit because. Again, you're going to be doing all those double teams with Azumi that's going 1,000 miles an hour, and her running off the ropes with a bad back or a bad knee or a bad neck is almost going to create like a whiplash effect. So, kudos to Miyu Amasaki, who her career kind of got halted very early with an injury, and she's gutting through all the pain because she has a lot of momentum coming off the Shuri match, the Nanai match, the Azumi match. So I think that's her thing is like, no, I have all this momentum. I don't want to take myself off the road, but it might be a point where Stardom has to be like, hey, look, there's no O2 line matches coming up. Why don't you stay back 2 or 3 days to kind of maybe heal up a little bit. So, we'll see with that. We'll see with that. But kudos to Miyu Amasaki for gutting through all that pain and putting on some really good matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on then to the main event of today's show, the opening night of the Stardom Goddess of Stardom Tag League 2023 from Ota City General Gymnasium on the 15th of October 2023. And this is a card that has gone through many, many incarnations and had to be changed around with obviously all the injuries and things. And the first thing I think we need to talk about, and I feel like we talk about a lot, is the attendance. Just 812 people in the building for this show. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, you point to the fact, right at the start of the show, I said 4 pay-per-views in October. I am 100% sure that is part of the reason for the attendance. However, you look at the fact that this show had no Tam, no Utami, no Saya, no Azumi, no Starlight Kid. That's 5 huge names that aren't on this show.
And your tag champs. And your tag champs in a tag tournament. Even though they weren't supposed to be in the tag tournament together because it's supposed to be Meltier, but you still don't have Sayoriano and not support your tag champs in any way, shape, or form, considering the fact it's a tag tournament. So, yeah, I kind of just want to throw that on there, brother.
Yep. I completely agree with you, as it turns out. I think we talked about it during the preview. But I think that huge amount of star power missing, the fact that, again, and I've said this before, the fact that tag team tournaments are just not as appealing as singles tournaments. We've just come off the back of the 5-star not 2 weeks ago. I think all of these are contributing factors to, the poor attendance. You compare it to the opening night of last year's tag tournament. That drew over 2,000 people. But that's misleading because it also had a championship match on and the IWGP tournament where Mayu and Utami main evented and Kairi and Alpha Female were on the card as well. So it's slightly misleading. I'm sure Stardom will be disappointed with the number, but there are quite a few contributing factors as to why that number is so low. I am sure that they would have been expecting in Ota, you are looking for 1,200 as a minimum, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's has to do with everything that you said. Just, the wrath of shows. I think that has a little bit to do with it, but the fact that there's just so many big stars that are missing. And even Julia, they had to bring back Andres Miyagi. And that may be something they may have been going for. I don't know. But it's like, even with Julia, who's probably of this crop, you're, one of your most well-known stars, you don't even have her in the tournament. You're bringing in somebody that hasn't wrestled and started in the last 5 years. And the match was great. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're going to get into this card. And, I made mention before on social media, I said, even with the raft of injuries that have happened to Stardom, as per usual, Rob, this was a dynamite show. It was worth every penny I spent on it, especially the main event tag match and the Crazy Star versus Prominence match. But again, that just goes to show you how stacked this roster of Stardom is, that they're missing all that talent. No Natsupoi, no Sayoriano. Obviously, she's not injured, but, not booked on the show. No Utami, no Azumi, no Saya Kamatani, no Tam. So you have a lot of big stars that are missing on this show. and they still put on a banger of a show. Yeah, 812 people, down quite a bit from previous year. Obviously, the previous year did have, some special stuff on there as well. But yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to all the competitors that were in the ring, that answered the bell. They all gave it 110%, and that's the thing that I am going to give my thumbs up the most. I understand the attendance isn't as good as we would like for here at the Stardom Cast, but you cannot say anything about the heart and determination from everybody that was on the show.
Oh no, certainly it's not indicative of match quality by any stretch of the imagination. There are some really good matches that you do need to check out, which obviously we're going to be talking about in a moment. We opened on the pre-show with Ruaka defeating Yuna Mizumori in 5 minutes and 56 seconds with the freezer bomb. Not a great deal to say about this match, Matt, but I'm surprised that Ruaka's getting the victory over Yuna, who, since her storyline with Cosmic Angels has concluded, seems to be doing nothing but losing, unfortunately.
Yeah, you figured on the pre-show that she would get a win here. And I was shocked that, they went about 5 minutes. It was a good 5 minutes. It wasn't anything blow away, but it wasn't anything bad. Obviously, Ruaka's very good, and Yuna Mizumori is, probably, as we get to the month of November, probably in my opinion, the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling for the year 2023. But I don't think it would have hurt to put Yuna Mizumori over here. But again, what do I know?
Especially as Yuna Mizumori is in the tag league and Ruaka isn't. It feels like giving her a victory would set her up, because I imagine if Tam is fit to do the rest of the tournament, I imagine Yuna is the one that's going to be eating all the falls in the tournament, because you certainly aren't going to have Tam. Unless it's setting up a title challenge, you aren't having Tam eat any falls as the World of Stardom champion.
Hot take here, folks. Hot take from Rob Goodwin.
We then moved on to the opening match of the main card, which saw the Donald Del Mondo team of Mai Sakurai and Tekla defeat the makeshift team, it's worth noting, of Mirai and Miyu Amasaki in 7 minutes and 33 seconds. Mai Sakurai in her enormous hat beating Miyu with the ladies' clutch in 7 minutes and 33. This, of course, was supposed to be, I believe, Mirai and Mai Sakurai versus O2 Line, but with Azumi being taken off the show, this was sort of put together as a sort of makeshift tag. Interesting dynamic in the fact that Mai Sakurai and Mirai are a team in this tournament and are facing off here. I quite like the dynamic of Mai Sakurai fighting, not necessarily dirty, but sort of, trying to blind Mirai with the money, for example. And you've got Mirai fighting very, very clean. As I mentioned before, I thought Tekla melded really, really well with both Mirai and Miyu Amasaki. Something we don't really talk about is the history of Tekla and Mirai, who both debuted at the start of 2022 as members of Donna Del Mondo, and then Mirai went and left to join God's Eye. So there is a little bit of history there. There's a little bit of interesting dynamic with Mai Sakurai and Mirai, as like I said, they are tagging. Miyu Amasaki ran around like a lunatic during this match, and then we saw Mai Sakurai's lovely brand new clutch. So overall, a fun little match. Again, not compulsory viewing, but it was a fun match. And it's great to see Mai Sakurai get those reps as this ladyship character, and it's good to see the more confident she gets with the character.
Yeah, my friend, I completely agree. Really good, a good match, good opener, good way to start the show. I actually had 3.25 stars. How about you?
I had it. I will tell you exactly where I had it. I had it at 3 stars. 3 stars exactly was my rating for that. We then moved on. Well, yeah, we'll do this first. So we moved on then to the singles match. Julia defeating the former Andros Miyagi, Michiko as she is known now, in 10 minutes and 19 seconds with the Northern Light Bomb. Matt, obviously we've seen Andros Miyagi in Stardom. We saw her in 2018, 2019 as a member of Oedatai. We weren't overly enamored with her in ring. She was quite literally the definition of fine. How do you think she did here?
She was fantastic. I know when we went back about 2 years ago or so, when we did the Momo Watanabe Wonder Stardom Championship review, I think we both had her match, no disrespect, as probably the bottom of almost Momo's matches. You can tell Andres Miyagi was part of a Oedo Tai because Oedo Tai's got a Oedo Tai. I guess like once you're a Oedo Tai, you're Oedo Tai for life because this thing was violent, fast, and it did the Oedo Tai ECW style brawl all over the place. She hits Julia with this apron power bomb, and again, there's rumors out there. Can't confirm or deny that we have the truth here, but there's rumors that Julia's not wrestling at 100%, that she may have a bruised tailbone. But for her to do some of the stuff, even at 100% that she did, that power bomb she took into the apron, that pile driver through the table that she just split the table right in half. There was some really, really awesome spots here. The tombstone pile driver, and then she does Andres Miyagi. How do you pronounce her new wrestling name, Rob? Michiko. She does a great job of kind of getting the ref out of the way so she can try for the tombstone pile driver onto the chair. And then, or she gets the tombstone onto the chair, gets a 2 count. And then it's kind of weird because you have all this violence, and then she hits the 2 tombstones, the one on the chair. And then all of a sudden, Julie just gets up. She hits a couple violent backdrop drivers, and then the Northern Lights bomb for 3. I was like, this was a good match. It was a fun match. It was very violent. Didn't overstay its welcome. Went a little over 10 minutes. But I think the finish of just like Julie eating that tombstone on the chair and then kind of just getting up and then just dropping Michiko on her head twice, and then the Northern Lights bomb was like kind of what happened here. Part of me was like, referee's like, hey, Julie, you know that in a little bit you got to get cleaned up because we're doing the opening ceremonies for the Goddess tournament, right? Like, oh yeah, let me just grab her, just drop her on her head a few times and call it a day. So that was just kind of how they it seemed like to me they rushed to the finish. They could have drawn out a little more drama with the selling, especially with those big bumps they were doing. But all in all, I thought this match was great. Again, like you said before, she was the definition of fine in Stardom back in 2017, 2018. She really seems to have hit her stride here with this new character throughout GLEAT. And I haven't seen her doing any of this stuff in GLEAT before. And if there's any matches that we should be checking out, by all means, folks, you know how to get a hold of us. But I thought she was great here. I thought Julie was great here. This was violent. It was right up to the Dangerous Queen's right up her alley. Excellent stuff. 3 3/4 stars, my friend.
Yeah, I gave it 3.5. It was a good match. It was far better than I expected, just because I had those preconceived notions of Andres Miyagi way back in 2019. I don't think it was ever in doubt that Julia was going to win here. I'd like to know a little bit more of the story because I haven't actually seen the end of the match where Michiko challenges Julia to a singles match. I've seen a couple of people say this is basically a glorified squash. I don't agree with that. I think there was a lot of to and fro, especially in the early goings and especially in the brawling outside. That apron powerbomb was disgusting, especially when you consider the fact that Julia is working with a coccyx injury. That must have been so unpleasant to take. But overall, I thought it was a decent back and forth. Will it be something they revisit? I don't know. I think I'm in complete agreement with you, Matt. I think they could have drawn out the ending a little bit more. But aside from that, I thought it was good all round. 3.5 stars, solid singles match. We then had what is quite possibly the saddest opening ceremony to a Goddess of Stardom Tag League I've ever seen. And I only say that because of the amount of people who had to come out without their partners.
They're going to prom by yourself,
It really was. Like, you got Mafia Bella coming on with the coats and the hats and the glasses looking like a badass. And then you got Miyu Amasaki coming out on her own, just like, assume he's supposed to be here. Yuna Mizumori, bless her, didn't know what to do with herself. She was like, I'm supposed to be with Tam, but here I am on my own.
Especially with somebody like Tam who chews up the scenery. You just kind of just need to be there and let Tam do her thing, and you're going to get over. So it's just like, oh man, like not only is Tam supposed to be here, she's the World of Stardom champion, and it's walking the Tam Road, and she had to walk the Tam Road without Tam. Hurts.
She did.
Hurts to say it. Oh, my heart. Oh.
But yeah, one thing it did do though is it gave us the first sort of viewing of the team Divine Kingdom, which is the team of Micah and Megan Bain. And I will say now, if we are talking wow factor, first impact sort of factor, there's no other team in this entire tournament that should be winning it apart from Divine Kingdom. Give them the win, give them a nice long run at the top of the tag division, because between this entrance, Micah's headgear, the music, because Micah's entrance is one of the best in Stardom, the way they carried themselves, the way they've gelled as a team, the way that they are just two badass powerhouses, just give them the titles now, because I think it works. It really works. And I think of all of the mismatched teams that we've got this year, Divine Kingdom, without a shadow of a doubt, are the one that I am most excited by, Matt.
Yeah, they really reminded me of of the Road Warriors in the 80s and early 90s, of just being dominant. And they used the Doomsday device. Obviously, we'll get to it in a moment, to set up for the power bomb. So I know me, you, and a lot of people I talk to have Divine Kingdom winning the whole thing, and for the reasons you just mentioned. But then I watched that main event, and maybe it's just because I'm the biggest Suzuki fan in the world, and I'd be like, you know what? They're really not doing much with Kagama. They're really not doing much with Suzuki. I don't think that Suzuki is going to be challenging for the white belt until sometime next year, because I think Mina is going to get it back at the end of the year. I would not say no to having FWC win this tournament, and then at Dream Kingdom, it's FWC versus Saori Poi. That would be an absolute barn burner of a match. But if you're looking for just like that wow factor, that awe factor, then it's Mike and Mega Bane. But I think that you can go left or go right on any of those two scenarios, and I think it's a win-win. So we shall see, sir. But yeah, just on that entrance alone, just the two of them, they literally are the female Road Warriors. Like, just badass. Like, who's going to knock them off their pedestal? Megan Bane's only been pinned once. That was from Tam in the red belt match that really exceeded expectations. Mike is coming off this just barely losing the finals of the 5-star, and then just punching Suzu Suzuki in the throat, and then basically just whipping Julia around from the pay-per-view from last week. So it's interesting to see the two of them together, and they had the proper match, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a team have a certain aura in the history of Stardom of like badassery. That is, Divine. That name, Divine Kingdom, sounds like it should be a name of an Iron Maiden album, my friend.
It really should. It should be something of Final Fantasy, shouldn't it? But one team that had enough of being outshone was Prominence, who, and this I really liked. So whether this was supposed to be the match now or not, Prominence attacked Crazy Star, Mei Seira, and Suzu Suzuki. Obviously, Suzu Suzuki, a former member of Prominence before leaving to join Stardom, so a lot of heat, a lot of history there. And Prominence dragged Crazy Star from the stage where everyone was stood, dragged them into the ring, and started the match with a beatdown. Loved that. I thought that was great. You don't need to wait for the bell. There is anger between Prominence and Suzu Suzuki. Let them fight. What did make me laugh, though, was as Risa Seira is dragging Suzu aggressively down the ramp, you can just see all the other tag teams making their way quietly and slowly off the stage, as though this is absolutely fine. That really tickled
got nothing to do with me, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go back. But yeah, this match, Crazy Star, Mei Seira, and Suzu Suzuki versus Prominence, Hiragi Kurumi, and Risa Seira, ending in a time limit draw, both teams getting their first point. This was fantastic, Matt. Hard hitting. There was an anger, and credit to Hatman for just leaning into his gimmick and starting this tournament off with a time limit draw.
Yeah, not only that, but the best match of the show, best match of the 4 shows that we have talked about. This was absolutely fantastic. Great way to start this tournament. It's like, well, all these people are hurt. They can't come out. There's no Tam, there's no Azumi. Natsupoi was supposed to be here. Maybe we would have had an Aphrodite team if Saya didn't get injured. So we can't have that, but what we can have, we'll do something completely different. We'll just have the Prominence team say, nope, we're starting this match now. I think on the rundown, it was supposed to be the co-main event. But like, nope, this is how we're starting. We're starting with an absolute bang with Risa Seira just dragging Suzu all over the arena and then saying, no, we're going to have a match now. And even though Suzu was like getting her ass kicked, she's like, you realize this is like my bag, right? You realize that like, I love this. Like, absolutely, let's go. And I liked it how like anytime Suzu would get the advantage, Kurumi Hiragi would come in And she is just like the unsung hero of this, that entire, since Prominence has been a part off and on of Stardom, the last year and a half, is kind of the unsung hero. Obviously, people point to Suzu and Rita Sarah for obvious reasons, but she was great here. And I loved how Mai Sakurai was like, okay, like, I'm not going to be able to outpower Risa with the strikes. I'm not going to be able to go move for move with Haragi, but Risa, like our Mai Sakurai, like her first big move in the match was like after like poor Suzu just getting pummeled, she just comes off the rope with that springboard blockbuster, and it's like, okay, now we have I'm able to use my speed and my agility to take down the tank that is Haragi, and able to kind of swing the favor back or the match back in the way of Crazy Star. I thought it was a really cool move and a really great way to highlight Mai Sakurai in the midst of all this craziness. And then we just have like just fantastic teamwork from Crazy Star. I mentioned before how they're slowly becoming my favorite tag team in all of wrestling. Ever since that fantastic instant classic match with the two of them challenging Soy Boy for the tag belts. Just really good stuff here. This back and forth action nonstop, but everything making sense. Everybody looking really good. Suzu, when I liked how Suzu was trying for the Sky Twister press and she gets cut off, and then Rita Sarah hits the top road air raid crash, and then Kuruma Haragi then just drops her right on her head with an island driver, and then Suzu's able to fight back, which is those brutal strikes, that 3-kick trio she does into the tequila shot, and then Kuruma Haragi hits the B driver, the bastard driver, gets a 2 count, and then basically we just have like a 4-way brawl as the time expires. Great way to start this tournament. Great way to highlight these two teams who are favorites going into the tournament. This was terrific. Just one of the best tag matches I've seen in all of wrestling this year. And again, time limit draw. Sometimes we kind of like, we kind of shrug our shoulders like, really, time limit draw? I love this was the perfect time and everything to do a time limit draw. Made sense here. This was great, Rob. I had this at 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it.
Wow. I had it at 4. I thought, again, the chemistry between the two teams was perfect. I think time limit draw was absolutely the correct choice for these two teams. You don't want to hand Suzu a loss having just won the 5-star Grand Prix. You want to keep Prominence strong because, as you mentioned, they are one of the favourites heading into the tournament. Fantastic way to open the tag league, especially when you're fighting an uphill battle with the amount of people that you've got off this card. Starting the actual tournament with something like this with a bang, I think they did a tremendous job. So 1 point each to the two favourites, I think, to alongside Mafia Bella, top red block. We then moved on to our next match, which was the team of Moonlight Venus, Mina Shirakawa and Waka Tsukiyama, defeating Maximum Mini, which is Hanako and Saya Ida, with Mina pinning Hanako with the implant DDT in 7 minutes and 19 seconds to get them their first victory of the tournament. Matt, this was fine. This was fine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was fine. There was nothing phenomenal about it. There was nothing bad about it. In my opinion, the best part of the match was Ida chop, Mina kick. Ida chop, Mina kick. And that was right up my alley.
Yes.
I'm like, yes, absolutely. And then Hanako would come in and she would overpower the Club Venus team, the Moonlight Venus team. And then Mina's like, you know what? I'm the only real main eventer in here. I'm the smartest one here. I'm just going to go to everybody's leg. And that's basically what she did. Like, drop, like, and it, makes sense. That's your strategy. That's Mina's thing, is she uses the strikes to set up to go to the knee. And it was simple psychology. It told a simple story. Waka was really good here. Her and Mina worked together really, really well. Really good stuff. Again, the money from in this match is Saya and Mina, and hopefully somewhere down the line we get, on one of these quote unquote road to shows, we have a match where they wrestle like 9 or 10 minutes, because their stuff was just awesome. Obviously, we're huge fans of Saya Ida on the show. Mina Shirakawa, we've been toting her since early 2022 as that she's someone that's going to break out soon to be a huge star, and here she is. Yeah, fine match. 3.5 stars. Was nothing offensive.
I don't know how much of a fan of Sayuri you actually are, Matt, because you made the absolutely horrendous claim that Mina Shirakawa is the only main eventer in this match. How dare you sully the name of Sayuri in that way?
Well, if she beaten Kyrie last week like she should have, you know what I mean? Then but that's
tune into What If to see how we'd have booked it.
I did look a match with Kyrie and Saito, didn't I? And I think I even said
You did, I
I think I
believe.
said for no reason. It's got nothing to do with it. I just want to see Kyrie versus Saito on a big pay-per-view.
Absolutely, the chop off would be incredible. Yeah, this was great. I think I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It did what it needed to do. It gave Moonlight Venus the victory that they needed. Hanako and Sairida are going to get limited points because a rookie is on that team, and that's just the way it is. But it is nice to see a nice bit of chemistry between Saya and Hanako. I thought they had, enough there to make you want to root for them as a team. And it's nice to see Sairida as the senior member of a team not being the one pinned. I know that's really pathetic, but it's just nice to see her being the one that's watching and, consoling the person taking the pinfall rather than being the weak link in the team. It's just nice to see. We move on then to the next match, which was the aforementioned Divine Kingdom, Micah and Megan Bain, defeating the team of Amisori and Lady C, who I believe are going to be called the Tokyo Towers, but I could be wrong.
Love it.
It's a great name. In 6 minutes and 27 seconds, Megan Bain pinning Lady C, who came out in new gear, with the F5 to move to 2 points. Definitive, I think, is the way that we can describe this match, Matt. It wasn't a squash by any stretch of the imagination, but it was about as dominant a start for Divine Kingdom as you are going to get without it being a squash, if that makes sense.
Rob Goodwin, we always give Stardom a lot of great ideas, and I just had one I'm going to say now before I forget. If the team name is the Tokyo Towers, it reminds me of the Twin Towers. Stardom, you need to have the Doctor-style Slick accompany Lady C and Ami Sawyer to the ring for the rest of this tournament. Anywho, Mr. Rob Goodwin. Jive Soul Bro, you know what I mean? You're always
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they should be called the Jive Soul Bros. Oh, that would be incredible.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, continue.
Wrestling, a match. Yeah, it wasn't a squash, but it was very definitive. Lady C looked great in her new gear. I like how they started the match out going to Ami Soaring and Lady C's strengths, which is their chops, and they were double chopping Micah and Mega Bain. I thought that was really cool. And then it got to a point where it's like Mike and Mega Bain are just going to run right over them. Lady C and Ami Story did a great job on fighting back, but ultimately it was that brutal Doomsday device, and I absolutely love that they're using that to set up the finish. And I think that they should use that, hit that, and then if Micah the legal person, she's the Michinoku driver, or if Megan Bain's the finisher, or the legal person, she hits the F5. So I like that combination. I made a kin a few minutes ago to they remind me of the Road Warriors. The fact that they're using the Doomsday device and to the violent nature that they are doing it. Megan Bain is obviously one of, if not the tallest person currently on the Stardom roster, and Micah throws some of the most brutal lariats in all of wrestling. So the fact that you have that, elevation with Micah coming off the top rope, and then it's like, oh, by the way, we're not done. He's either Michinoku driver or the F5. Really just goes to show who is going to beat the two of these. Like who, again, they're not having Holy Demon Army versus Misawa, Kobashi 5.5-star classics. They'll have good matches, don't get me wrong. But I think the point is them for look completely dominant, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I thought they were great here. I thought this match, 6.5 minutes may not seem too long, but I think it did what it needed to do for them to kind of just take a little bit of heat, shine up the Slick's new favorite tag team, the Tokyo Towers, just a little bit, and then just blitz them for the last 2 or 3 minutes and put them away. Excellent stuff. Just based on the psychology of Lowen and just how badass that Divine Kingdom are, I gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah. Again, I feel like Lady C is going to be eating a lot of pinfalls for the Jive Bros. The Jive Soul Bros. But yeah, this was all about Micah and Megan Bain, setting the stall out early that they are going to be a dominant team. And they did that well. I gave it 3.25 stars. It was a great start, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of that team and more of that team at the top of the tag division in high-profile matches, because I think they'll be great. In your semi-main event, then, we had another Goddess of Storm Tag League match. The Uedatai XL team of Momo Watanabe and Natsuko Tora defeating the God's Eye team of Saki Kashima and Syuri in 10 minutes and 3 seconds. Momo pinning Saki with the Tequila Sunrise. I loved the opening to this match. It really, really tickled me, and it's just another thing that that makes me laugh with the dynamic of Saki and Syuri. The fact that Syuri's showing tough love and refusing to tag in. The fact that Saki Kashima's like, right, okay, I'll start the match. And then the moment Syuri turns her back, she ducks under the ropes and runs to the back and has to be brought back out. I thought that was great. The fact that every time she's on top, Saki looks to tag out and Syuri's like, no, carry on, you're doing well. And then she'll inevitably get hit with a big boot or something. Honestly, the chemistry between Saki and Syuri, and I think it's the complete disparity between the two styles, just makes this team work. You talk about the odd couple in this tag league. Saki and Syuri are that in spades, Matt.
Saki and Syuri remind me of me and Amber. Opposites attract. Nothing in common. Yeah, I don't know how I've made that work for 14 years, but I think she asks herself that every day too. Regardless, yeah, I liked how Saki and Syuri, they both came out like in the same gear of like Syuri's almost like some of her tag gear that she's had. So I think it's cool that there's that symmetry. I love Momo and Tora together. We've seen them tag a few times prior. We see their great chemistry when there's multi-person matches together. I thought Tora was great here. I thought Momo and Tora as a team were terrific, and especially with Tora being one of the MVPs of the 5-star Grand Prix, and Momo Watanabe really finding her niche into being a fantastic worker and a fantastic heel worker at that. Again, Saki was great here. Well, for me, Rob, this match, the money was those exchanges between Syuri and Momo Watanabe. We talk all the time about how great their match was at the final of 5-star back in 2021. And again, Tora was great here. Saki's comic, Saki put something completely different, because you have three very, very violent wrestlers in Syuri, Momo Watanabe, and Tora. And Saki Kashima that wants nothing to do with it. But Syuri's like, no, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you there. And it gels really well. But those exchanges between Syuri and Momo Watanabe, it's just like, oh, man, that's right. These two just don't miss. They just don't miss. And I would love to see somewhere down the line these two have some sort of feud. It doesn't even need to be for a championship, because their stuff was just great. And then ultimately it was just Momo and Tora able to kind of divide and conquer to take Syuri out, and then Momo just head kicking Saki. Of course, Saki does have to get the Kishikasai in, because that is what, you never can count Saki out of a match. That's the great thing about her. She can be getting bludgeoned the entire match, and then all of a sudden she gets rolled up in the most devastating move in all pro wrestling, the Kishikasai. They did a great job teasing that, but ultimately it's Momo Watanabe just punting poor Saki's head almost into the front row and then hitting the Tequila Sunrise for the pinfall. Really enjoyed this match. I'm really going to enjoy both these teams in this tournament, especially the Uedatai team of Tora and Momo Watanabe. Like I said, just for their push they had in the 5-star, 3 3/4 stars. Really enjoyed it.
Well, their team, Gold Ship, was one of the more entertaining teams of the Triangle Derby at the start of the year. The team between Saki, Momo, and Natsuko Tora. So I had high hopes of the XL team of Tora and Momo, and I think they could be a force to be reckoned with, certainly, because similar to Micah and Mega Man, there doesn't seem to be a weak link in Tora and Momo Watanabe. So that promises to be a very, very imposing team. However, post-match, as Syuri is attempting to cradle Saki out of the ring, she gets a challenge via video link, and it's none other than the Scandinavian Hurricane herself, Alice Inc. She is also known as the Scandinavian Dragon. She is a black belt martial artist, a pro wrestler who perhaps is most well known for her run in WXW, where she is a former women's champion. And she is going to be challenging Syuri to her next UWF rules match, possibly Syuri's most difficult challenge in that area, and that has been made official for Gold Rush in November. So, Matt, we have another UWF match, but rather than it being someone on the Stardom roster, we have a legitimate martial artist. And I'm really excited to see how this works in a Stardom ring, to legitimate martial artists going at it in a UWF match.
Rob, we have a local all-women shoot style promotion up my way called I think it's called Combat Elite, something like that. And when Allison Inc. had the little video, it took a little bit for anybody to kind of figure out who it was. And somebody tweeted the video to me, and I retweeted asking if anybody can tell me who this was. And a lot of my friends from the local indie scene was like, "Oh no, we've seen her on these shoot style matches. She's absolutely fantastic." And she will have a great match with a legit former UFC fighter in Sherry. So I have not been able to check out any of her stuff, just with the barrage of how busy I am. Folks, I'm going to get this out now before I forget. I was so busy this week with Comic-Con. There will be no Io Shirai watch this week because I just did not get the time, and I apologize. We'll double up on it next week. So, yeah, I think I have a little bit of free time maybe to spare in the next day or two, so I'm going to definitely look her up on YouTube. But from what my friends who I highly respect in the wrestling business are telling me, that she is a phenomenal shoot style wrestler, and obviously Sherry is one of the best of this generation at that style. So yeah, and that's official for the pay-per-view in November, correct? The Tam versus Suzu one.
It is indeed. Those are the two matches that have been made official so far. Shiori versus Alice Inc. in a UWF rules match, and then obviously the red belt match between Tam and the 5-star winner Suzu Suzuki. So exciting times.
Yes sir, yes sir.
I'm so intrigued to see how the Stardom landscape is sort of forming, and I know this is completely off topic, how that main event scene is going to come, how it's going to look after this pay-per-view, because genuinely you have a complete blank slate then for Dream Queendom. Who is it going to be? Who is Tam or Suzu, depending on who you think is going to win that match? Who do you think they are going to face at Ryogoku? Because you've literally got anyone. You can have anyone challenge. I mean, if Tam's really hurt, it makes sense to put the belt on Suzu. But we'll talk about that at a different time. Because we're not actually too far away from that pay-per-view. I think we are exactly a month as we record. Yeah, Saturday the 18th. So we are exactly a month away from that show, which is incredibly, incredibly exciting.
Sir.
We move on to our main event, and it's an all-stars affair. The Eye Contact team, no idea why they are called that, taking on FWC. FWC coming out with the victory. Hazuki and Koguma defeating Eye Contact, Hanan and Mayu Iwatani in 12 minutes and 47 seconds. Koguma getting the pinfall over Hanan with the diving body press. Matt, I hate to disagree with you, you know that, but I'm afraid this was my match of the show and my match of the run of 4. I thought this was tremendous. This is why we love the Stars 8-woman tags, because you know every single one, given the tap on the shoulder, can go. But more importantly, Koguma was serious, and when Koguma's serious and when Koguma is ready to go, we saw it in that 6-woman with Kairi, that final one in Nagoya. We saw that she could be serious and she can still go, because people do forget she's so much more than a bare comedy act, and here she proved it again. And you could be forgiven for thinking the exchanges between Hazuki and Mayu Iwatani would be the ones that everybody remembers, and don't get me wrong, there is an absolutely hellacious moment where Koguma, I think, is trying to get Mayu into a superplex and can't. And Hazuki just out of nowhere hits a backstabber. And it's the most horrendous bump. And Mayu, twists in a way only Mayu can. And it looks awful. So there was some fantastic stuff between Hazuki and Mayu. But for me, that closing sequence between Koguma and Hanan, absolutely tremendous. They managed to cram so much into 12 minutes. I thought this was brilliant. A great advert for this tournament. A great way to close it, Matt.
Yeah, you just made mention that you don't like to disagree with me that this was your favorite match of these shows. This one was right below the Prominence versus Suzu Mei Sarah match. And really when you have matches that are that good, that close together, there's always little things that I'd be like, well, this is why I like the match better. And the reason why I like the Crazy Star versus Prominence match better than this one is because Mayu and Hanan, they came out to the wrong theme, Rob. They came out to the wrong theme. I've been waiting 2 days to say that to you, my friend. No, this match was great. This match is the spot that you're talking about, because I had to go back and rewatch it, was Mayu goes for top rope Rana on Kagama. Kagama picks her up.
That's
yeah,
right.
It's like she's gonna give her like the power bomb, and then Hazuki. I'm like, there's no way she's gonna be able to jump all that way up and get Mayu with that. And I thought Mayu might have had to like go down a little bit to help her, but Hazuki's got some. Hazuki's got some jumps in her. I mean, she's got some legs. I'm like, holy geez, that was a heck of a jump to run, full sprint, stop, jump, and then be able to pull that off. There was some really cool spots. There's one spot where Kagama goes for a high cross body onto Mayu, and Mayu drop kicks Kagama so hard that instead of Kagama going out,
God.
she went up and then landed down on Mayu. Then Mayu just gets up. Mayu, even though Mayu was on the offensive, she sells the stomach, even though she wasn't supposed to because she got landed on, and then she just super kicks Kagama twice. But yeah, it's great. Again, FWC, it just seems like Kagama, she does that comedy, actually has it down. It's something different from the show. But like when Hazuki's on the apron with her, it's like, hey, I enjoy it as well, but time to get serious. And we got serious with Kairi. We got serious here. The match was great. FWC is great. I mentioned last year, around springtime last year, that I thought FWC and FTR were the two best tag teams in all of wrestling. Obviously, Hazuki went on to have that legendary run in the 5-star where it looked like she was going to win. And then, they kind of not split off. Like, obviously, they're part of Stars, they're part of FWC. But that's why I went back. I watched this match in my hotel room in New York, and then about halfway through, I just stopped taking notes. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to rewatch it. And I watched it again, and I made mention a little bit ago, partner, that obviously Mike and Megan Main might be where the story is, where the money is. But I don't think they're not really doing anything with Kagama or Hazuki. You mentioned Dream Queendom. I think Dream Queendom is going to be Mina dethroning Mirai for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, and then Mina getting that proper 6-7 month run with the Wonder of Stardom Championship. So, like, where does that leave Hazuki? I think it might be the perfect one. Like, let's put FWC back full time until maybe the summer of next year. Until now, we're ready for Hazuki's time to break out to get that white belt. Because ultimately, I think that's where it's going to go to, is Hazuki getting that Wonder of Stardom Championship, because they made such a big deal out of it that she's 0 for 5. And she can't win the big one. And she's so darn good in the ring. She's so good in the ring and gives it all 110%, as well as, all these wrestlers did. But that closing stretch with Hanan and Kagama, I didn't know where it was going to go. And it got to a point where Hanan's just like hitting the Hanan special, the backdrop drivers. And then Mayu and Hazuki, they would intertwine to break things up or help their selected partner out with the move here or there. But got to a point where I was like, Hanan, the future ace at just 19 years old, about to get a big win on the main event of a pretty important pay-per-view. Ultimately, it was Kagamo who was like, okay, hey, let's give it to her. That was awesome. I thought it was an excellent match, an excellent way to close out, a really sleeper pay-per-view. This was a great show from start to finish, with the two tag matches we're talking about really being the double thumbs up. I had this 4.25 stars. Absolutely loved this. Really two fantastic must-see tag matches on a pretty solid card, my friend.
Yeah, completely agree. I've got it as 4.25 as well. Like I say, my match of the tournament so far. Obviously, we've only had 5 matches of the tournament, but it is definitely one of the top 5 matches of this tournament so far. Yeah, that spot you were talking about of Mayu drop kicking Kagama out of the air, the noise Mayu makes. So Kagama lands on it, and she must land like smack dab on her diaphragm. That's how it looks anyway. And the noise that winded noise Mayu makes, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. And then she just gets up and super kicks Kagama in the face. It's a tremendous amount of fun that they managed to condense into less than 13 minutes. And I think, we started the review of this show with potentially a little bit of negativity in terms of the attendance. I think it's worth pointing out that this show is still great, and all credit goes to those roster members that are on this card. They put on a very, very easy to watch pay-per-view. Is it the pay-per-view of the year? No, it isn't, not at all. But with what they are given, I think everyone does a fantastic job. The stories are told correctly, the right people come out winning, and honestly, I'm excited for the rest of this tournament because you've got Eye Contact, Hanan and Mayu, who are going to be great. Fukuoka Double Crazy, who you'd be stupid to rule out of winning the entire thing. Micah and Megan Bain, who are money. And then you've got Crazy Star, and you've got Prominence, and you've got Mafia Bella, who we haven't even seen wrestle yet. And again, we've talked about how underrated Tekla is. This could be the tournament where she's allowed to shine, or when she's given the go to shine. So overall, incredibly excited to see what else we have going on. And actually, it's worth noting as we move on to previewing, or at least looking at what shows are next up. Tomorrow, as we record the 19th, Stardom goes to Korakuen Hall for the second night of the Tag League. The 4 matches from the Tag League are Mafia Bella versus Crazy Star, which that's going to be great. Syuri and Saki Kashima versus Maximum Mini, Sayurida and Hanako. You've then got Eye Contact, Mayu Iwatani and Hanan versus Divine Kingdom.
Ooh.
That is a very tasty matchup. And then you've also got Fukuoka Double Crazy versus Mirai and Mai Sakurai. So a couple
And the hat.
of really, really...
And the hat.
And the hat! Also, earlier on the card, you've got a tag match, Miyu and Lady C taking on XL. And then you've also got a 4-way Saori Anu, who's on the card, and versus Mina Shirakawa versus Ami Sori versus Ruaka. So that is the Korakuen card. And then on the 22nd of October, which is a Sunday, Stardom are in Osaka Edion Arena, number 2, for the third night of the Stardom Goddess of Stardom Festival. Don't forget that Waka, Mina, Syuri, and Yuna are all in Thailand, so they aren't on the card. The card is as follows: Lady C versus Ruaka, a tag team match, Divine Kingdom versus Saki and Amisori. We've then got 4 tag league matches. Fukuoka Double Crazy versus O2 Line. Don't sleep on that match. That match could be brilliant. You've then got Eye Contact, Mayu Iwatani and Hanan taking on Mai Sakurai and Mirai. Crazy Star versus Maximum Mini. And then in the main event, or at least it's in the main event on the run card on Stardom's website, you've got Mafia Bella versus Oedatai XL. That, again, is a very, very tasty, tasty matchup. 2 very, very strong cards there, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Obviously, Korakuen is always a great venue. I'm really looking forward to the O2 Line versus FWC match. Really, anything with FWC. It's like I said, they're kind of like my go-to tag team. But the Mayu and Hanan versus Megan Bain and Micah, that's going to be interesting as well, just to see kind of how that one goes. But yeah, this tournament, I think, is going to be one that I think when it's all said and done, people are going to be like, despite the wrath of injuries and coming off a really good 5-star with all the injuries, Stardom goes on to put on another fantastic tournament. I'm really interested to see how this shakes out, my friend. But before we do, I don't know how much further we have in the show. Before we do our sign-offs, there's one thing that I just got handed, like I'm David Letterman. I just got handed a text message a little bit ago, and just something I kind of just want to pick your brain on for a few seconds.
Go for it, man. We are done. So I'm intrigued.
We just found out here that in the next few hours that PWI will be releasing their women's 150, and I'm just wondering, who do you think is going to be on the number 1 spot? Obviously, last year we were blessed to have Shuri, our very own Shuri, as the number 1 spot. Usually, the PWI awards usually goes to somebody on the bigger promotions, WWE, AEW, back in the 90s, WCW. So I just want to pick your brain. Who do you think will land the number 1 spot for the PWI Women's 150?
Who do I think will, or who do I think should?
Let's do both.
Who do I think will? Rhea Ripley.
I agree.
And I think Io Sky will be quite high up as well. Who do I think should? That's a tougher question. I I mean, work rate, and I know this is a completely left field pick, but I mean, Natsupoi, I think, has done a tremendous amount of work this year. I think she's been brilliant. I think Julia has got to be up there. I think Maika, Suzuki. You could literally pick anyone from Stardom. You know, Mina Shirakawa won't be up there. And, you know, I don't want to say rightly, but, you know, when you consider what PWI uses their criteria, I can understand why Mina isn't up there. Same reason I can understand why Mayu isn't up there. But I'd like to think that Julia or Natsupoi are probably my picks, because Natsupoi's just come off. Saying that, we are talking about this. Don't forget, they did miss off Tetsuya Naito of the PWI 500. The bloke that won the G1 Climax
Main event
and had a 5.5 star and a 6-star match on back-to-back nights and didn't get into the top 500. So take it with a pinch of salt, people, whoever they choose. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's Rhea Ripley because wins and losses really matter. That's why last year, as great of a year as Saitama, Tani, and Sherry had, I was like, and again, I've been reading the PWI since I was probably in middle school. So I remember when the first PWI 500 came out, and that's the criteria: wins or losses. And if you go back and look, anybody that's won the Royal Rumble and then went on to main event WrestleMania and win the championship there, 9.5 times out of 10, they were the PWI #1 because you're winning the big match that sets up to the biggest match of the year. So that's why last year I was shocked. I thought it would have been Bianca Belair, and I was stunned and surprised and happily that it was Sherry, and that our good friend Karen Peterson got to interview Sherry for that magazine. But Rhea Ripley did the same thing that Bianca Belair did last year, where she won the Royal Rumble and then went on to go and win the championship at WrestleMania. I think the only reason why Sherry knocked out Bianca last year is because the dominant run Sherry had with winning the 5-star and just this unbelievable championship run with the World of Stardom Championship. That's why I think Rhea is going to be #1. As far as what Stardom wrestler is going to be on the top spot, it's either going to be Julia because she won the 5-star and then won the championship, or it's going to be Tam because Tam has again, wins and losses matter. So she has won both the red belt and the white belt during the evaluation period and held them both at the same time. So I can see like Tam or Julia be your 2 or 3, but I agree with your partner. I think it's going to go to Rhea Ripley. And the only thing that may bump Rhea off is that she did not have a match on SummerSlam, which is not her fault. I don't know how they didn't book her on there, but that's another story for another day. But yes, as this podcast airs, we will know the PWI Women's 150. I believe they said it's going to drop around 4:30 Eastern time, and we are a few hours away from that. So we shall see how right we are on those picks, good sir.
I can't wait to see Twitter go into its usual
I love it.
overload and meltdown. It's so unnecessary and it's amazing, but I must admit that Naito one, that Naito admission really, really made me giggle, because to be honest, Naito should have at least been top 20, never mind not in the top 500. I'd be amazed if Julia and Tam aren't in the top 10. But again, we will see, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it on next week's episode where, and I don't want to alarm anyone, we haven't got a pay-per-view to talk about, Matt. And I don't know what to do with myself. But no, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Thank you again for everyone for your support, for listening, for subscribing, for joining us on Patreon, for subscribing to our YouTube channel. We're on the quest on YouTube to reach 250 subscribers. We're on 219. If you haven't already, go and check it out. It would really, really help us out. We had an absolute raft of reviews on Apple Podcasts and loads of 5-star ones and really, really nice, really quite wholesome things written in the comments. So thank you for those. Again, we can't tell you how much we appreciate all of you. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, maybe you're new. If you are, hello. Go and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Our Patreon, www.patreon.com the Stardom Cast, where you can join for as little as $1 and for as much as our Red Belt tier of $25. So there's loads of tiers in between. There's something for all Stardom fans there. You can find us on all social media at the Stardom Cast. If you so choose, you can follow me at Real Rob Goodwin. Matt, where can they find you? And let's sign off this podcast.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks to everybody that I met at New York Comic Con, or these new friends that I have due to the fantastic person that is one Mercedes Monet. It's really nice to see one person bring such a community together. It's absolutely fantastic. That means the world to me. Something else that means the world to me is Bipoi. Obviously, that means so much to me. Questions, comments, anything I can do for you folks, any suggestions, let me know. Matt Turner, OF, on the Instagram, the Twitter, the X, or the TikTok as well. Just let me know any conversations you would like to have. Folks, like Rob said, we cannot thank you enough for the fantastic support. It literally seems like every time we look at a stat or this or that or something, it always seems like something is going up, and there's a lot of positivity that comes in and out of this podcast. It means the world to us because, like I always say, folks, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.